Hi, welcome to Red Dot Forum Camera Talk. I'm David Farkas. I'm joined by Josh Lehrer.
Hey, everybody.
We've got Jose Rivera producing the show.
Hello, everyone.
All right. Feels like we were just here, Josh.
It feels like a week ago we were just here. So you
Kind of
get
like a week,
spoiled by two in a row like we used to do in the old days.
Oh my gosh,
As
yeah.
in 18 months ago.
Yeah. In the beginning, we did this weekly, which is crazy
Yeah.
to think about.
Now, to think about it now that we did our first 10 in a row is,
Wow.
I'm tired just thinking about it. But,
Wow. Yep.
you know, it helped us grow and learn and test and,
Yep.
yeah.
Continual improvement.
It sounds like, or it looks like we have people from everywhere.
Wow.
35,000 feet above the States, Mike.
That's a new
how
one.
are you stream? How do you have enough bandwidth to stream on YouTube from a plane?
Maybe he's getting thrown out the plane.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Sweet, we are
So,
spooling up.
yeah, everyone's joining us here. It's great to see. Thanks again for tuning in again. If you didn't have enough of us last week. So last week we covered the it depends scenarios.
Yes.
And kind of talked through all the different scenarios and more the thought process behind how we get through and how we come to a conclusion of and a decision on these more complicated gear questions, right? So
Yes.
that was definitely a trip down the rabbit hole for us.
And we got there was a lot of discussion
Yes.
post show,
Yes.
email and phone, and people that we spoke with, and overwhelmingly positive feedback. And certainly people were interested in episodes like that. So we're keeping that theme going for this week.
But 180 degrees the other way.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Because last week was about looking at this vast array of options and trying to pick and choose and build kits. What is the theme for this week, David?
Keeping it simple. So it's the old KISS principle. Keep it simple, smarty, right?
That's right.
And that is what we're going to attempt to do. We posted on Instagram about the theme, and personally, I got called out by more than a few people
Yeah.
saying like, wait, the bring all the things person is saying to keep it simple.
Yeah. Yes, I think
Yeah.
that David is notorious for not doing that, which is one of the reasons this will be a fun show.
I think so too.
But I think it's important that we set some parameters and some definitions about what we're going to talk about, or hopefully talk about, and what our thought process is about tonight.
Sure.
I can go into that a little bit. if
Yeah,
you want, and
please.
then you can
No.
jump in because
Yeah,
we spoke about this. So
We did. We had a whole conversation,
We did.
but they didn't hear it.
no, they didn't. Well, I wish they did because I
Yeah.
wouldn't have to say it again.
It was a great conversation,
So
guys.
what do we mean when we say keep it simple? Well, the gut reaction to that is, oh, that's got to be one camera, one lens, or that's got to be a Q2
But-
or a D1.
And it can be.
And it can be. But tonight, our definition of simple is not about any metric. It's not one camera or two cameras or one bag. It's not about that. It's about going out either on a photo outing or on a trip or just casually with a kit where you feel confident in what you have. You don't feel overburdened, overcomplicated, or indecisive about what you're using. That's the feeling we want you to have using the tips and tricks that we are going to share and the insight we're going to share tonight. It's not about, this episode is all about one camera and one lens for everything. That's not
Right.
really the idea. That's another show.
I think the really important takeaway is here, we're talking about keeping it simple in relative terms, not absolute terms.
Yes.
So keeping it simple for me might not look the same as keeping it simple for Kirsten, who's the absolute minimalist.
Yeah.
Who really is a one camera, one lens person. So keeping it simple for her means no tripod, no bag,
Yeah.
same camera,
Yeah.
right? That's simple. Keeping it simple for me might mean not bringing 6 lenses and bringing 3 lenses, right? It's all it's relative.
Yes.
It's definitely relative. It does not depend. This is
right.
This
right.
is the it does
Although
not
we'll
depend.
definitely
episode.
get some questions where the answer will be it depends because
Ah.
it wouldn't be an episode of the show.
No,
that
no,
didn't-
no.
But our objective tonight is again to get you thinking about how to remove the feeling of being overwhelmed or overgeared, or really to end up going on a trip and not having gear you barely used. Because that's really the worst feeling, and we've all done it. David and I probably more than most, is you're planning for your trip, and you're gearing the lens and this and that, and you go on your trip, and there's like 2 lenses you never even touched.
And you're like, wait, why didn't I use those?
Why did I lug those around
Right.
for a week in Europe when I didn't even use them? So
I
that's...
talked about that last week.
Yes.
I carried lenses up a mountain that I didn't need.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So our goal for tonight is to talk about how to avoid that and the strategies we use to streamline the kits down. Now, granted, we'll probably end up talking a lot about 1 or 2 lens kits just because that is
It lends itself.
right. That lends itself well to the setup we're going for. But don't assume that automatically that's what keeping it simple means, because that's not necessarily what we're going to cover for every scenario.
Right. Keeping it simple is just like we talked about in the It Depends episode. And if you haven't seen it, check out last week's episode. Also, if you missed any other episodes, there's a link to the playlist of all previous 38-ish episodes.
Something like that.
Something like that,
Yeah.
covering a wide variety of topics, and you can click on the playlist and check them all out at your leisure. A lot of people worry that they missed the show live, but don't worry, we keep it archived on YouTube.
That's right.
So do check that out. And also, if you want to see more videos like this in the future, be sure to subscribe to the channel, click the notifications so you know when we post new content.
Well, just to address this, people ask me often, like, are you doing a show this week? Are you doing whatever? If you subscribe, you get notifications that will tell you once we post the sort of preview page.
Which I think we did on
Yeah.
Thursday.
Yeah, so you'll get ahead. We're still bringing you content. Sometimes it's 2 in a row. Sometimes I think our next show is probably like in a month or something.
Yeah, so I'm leaving in a few days to go lead a workshop in Iceland, which is really exciting because getting back out in the world and getting back to what we love to do, which is go in small groups of photographers and taking pictures of things and chasing away tourists.
Yeah,
So that's what we love.
there we go. So let's get into some of the more conceptual side of this stuff. Then we'll answer some questions, and then we'll probably get into some more gear-related stuff, I think, as well. We're gonna...
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on the chat over here.
We're both watching the chat. We want to see what's coming in. And we're going to keep this free flowing, and we're going to be all over the place, which again seems to be the episodes that people seem to respond to the best. Oh, I promise you the next show is going to be something super, super specific, and you're going to go, what is going on?
Right, I'm going to go away so that Josh has the time to accumulate and prepare without the distraction.
Time is an issue since I'll just be probably at the store every day. But the
Who's
idea,
only episode?
we do want to do a 28 episode. I'm saying that now because if you're
Send us your 28.
right, if you're someone who watches the show and gets bugged by me about borrowing things, expect me to be asking for like random 28 lenses sometime in the next few weeks, because we do want to do an episode about all the 28s.
Yes.
From all systems, not just M. So that's something that's
Right,
coming
because
up.
we already did an episode. We did an episode on Leica wide angles where we did cover 28s.
Yeah.
But we didn't cover every 28 like we did in our 35 and our 50 and our 75 episodes.
Right. So that's something that we're thinking about. So we've got some lens specific content coming up. But anyway, let's get to the good stuff. So I think one of the things I talk about when I'm interfacing with people in the store, on the phone, or by email about how to choose their kit and what do I bring, and I'm going to here, and it's being honest with yourself and realistic with yourself. It's easy if you have an M10 and 8 lenses, for example. Let's say you have that problem, to say, I'm going to Geneva for a week, and I'm going to do all this, and I'm going to bring all my lenses. Awesome. Great. But the reality is, when you come back, I can pretty much guarantee you're not going to use all 8. In fact, you're probably not even going to use half of that.
I'm going to say 4.
Yeah, 4. So one of the things that I think a lot of people do, and we've both done this, is they're just not honest with themselves about what they're going to photograph, what they have photographed prior in various situations that they've been in, and what are their creative objectives realistically.
Right. We talked about this last week about using the data that you generate yourself.
Yes.
Meaning your metadata for your photographs. If you go into Lightroom, you can sort on what lenses or focal lengths, either one. You can actually choose both, one or both of those. So for instance, if you use a zoom like the 24-90, you can see, I use the 24-90 as one option, but you can also see filtered by focal lengths. You can see what you shot at 32 and 36 and 48. Lightroom captures both of those pieces of information. What that allows you to do is answer what Josh is talking about, which is if I'm honest with myself and I look at the pictures that I'm taking, and certainly the pictures that I ended up selecting and starring, and say, wow, 8 out of 10 pictures are with the 35. I'm thinking 35 is pretty essential, but only 2% of these photos were taken with an 18 millimeter.
Yeah.
And saying, do I need the 18? Now, if those two happen to be your absolute favorite shots out of everything, for me, that negates the fact that even though the vast majority is one thing, to you, that essential lens is the one that creates those wow pictures.
Right, because that's what I mean when I talk about your creative objectives.
Yeah.
But in order to know that, you have to know your style and what you're going to be doing. If you're going to be with your family on a trip the entire time, your creative objectives, by the very nature of your environment, will be different than if you're going on a workshop with David on some crazy, photo adventure. And I often see people feel compelled to have this wide focal length range because they think that's what's relevant.
Right.
And they're afraid to have a 28-50 or 28-35-50 because they feel like there's going to be redundancy. And I think there's a difference between what's relevant and what's redundant, and also what's logical. Now, if you told me, Josh, I love to shoot on the street, and I love to do like walk around family photos and the occasional portrait or close up of a cool detail, I would say a 28-35-50 is a perfect kit for you.
Sure.
Now, somebody might say, like I said, they might say, well, wait, those are they're so close. That's so much redundancy. No, that's the most efficient kit for what you're doing.
Right.
Some people are so tempted to go out 21, 35, 75, like they have this huge range. But if you're not going to use your 21, or if you're going to use your 21 for one shot,
Right.
it's complete waste, because tonight is all about keeping it simple, which means when you're out, you're not thinking about, man, I got that 21 in my bag, I really should use it. And then you end up making compromises. And you've probably been through that, I imagine, especially
never.
Especially especially when you're testing new gear and you're really you're overpacking.
Right. I mean, certainly that has, as I'm thinking about keeping it simple and having focal lengths, I mean, I'll just give us an example. When I did the CL review, I was in New Mexico, in Santa Fe, and I took every single TL lens.
Yeah, I remember that.
And the fact is, that means that I had 3 lenses that offered an 18 millimeter focal length. 18 on there is like a 28.
Yeah.
So I had an 11 to 23. I had an 18 to 8. I had an 18 to 56. I had the 23, which overlapped with another one. I had all the lenses overlapped with all the other lenses. And the only reason that I did end up using them all is because I was forcing myself to use them all to test the camera.
Yeah.
To have samples and to have results that I could evaluate and show from every lens offered in the system. Thankfully, all the TL lenses in a bag fits in about this big and weighs like 8 pounds.
But you see, just to interrupt you for a moment, for that scenario, that's a simple kit. You would look at that kit and go, that's one of everything. Why? That's not simple. But the reality is, for his creative objectives, which was to generate a certain set of data, essentially, that was a simple kit. If he had started bringing R lenses or S lenses or crazy stuff, then an SL, even though he knew he wasn't going to use it.
And that's a fair point.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, when I tested the SL2, I made it a point to bring a 35-1.4 M lens so I could see how an M lens worked. But I chose not to do that on the CL because I was keeping it simple of sticking to only native lenses. Now, would I take that kit when I personally travel? No, absolutely not, because I don't need every single lens.
Yeah.
I carry most of the time, talking about the CL, most of the time I carry, because that's my CL.
Yeah.
This is my 18, and that's my 35-1.4. This is what I carry, an 18 and a 35. That's simple, right?
Something JDD is saying here is take a lens you like and a lens with less favor, and you might learn something about it. What that statement is a creative objective.
Sure.
So if that is your creative objective, and mine just was recently, it was to learn more about the 100 millimeter S lens on the SL2S. It was a combination I hadn't tried.
Right.
So I had a creative objective, and I brought the SL2S, the S adapter L, the 100S, and then I brought a 35 Apo SL because That's an example of a
That was
lens that I
your
love.
safety net, right?
Right, exactly. A lens that I knew I could count on and just loved.
Yeah.
And a lens I hadn't tried before on that camera. And I ended up shooting almost exclusively with the 100 because I had so much fun with it. But I had a couple shots with the 35, so I was glad I had it. And that kit was small enough to fit in a small bag, maybe about that big, and I was good to go. So for me, my creative objectives, if you just look at that kit, you go, wait, do you have an S lens with an adapter? And it's like, that's not simple. That's like the most convoluted.
Yeah.
But for my objectives that day, which I knew ahead of time and I thought about, I was prepared with a simple kit. Now, if I wasn't thinking like that, I would say, well, I got to have the 100 to test it. Then I got to have a 24 to 90, so I have my zoom. And then if I get bored of the 100, I'll probably bring the 90 to 280, and then I have a backpack and forget it. I'd be miserable.
Yeah.
And I think, so again, it's not necessarily about one camera, one lens, or keeping it minimal. It's about making sure your gear and your mindset is aligned with the kind of photographs you want or hope to make. And it doesn't mean it has to be photographs you always made, because like JDD just made a great point. It could be something pushing yourself.
Because let's be real. Let's back up and sort of self-analyze why we do this crazy thing that we do. Why are we all so nuts about photography? Why? Certainly, I get super, worked up and anxious and run through all the scenarios. And you saw us talk about that last week. All that is going on internally and often externally to my colleagues. It's like, oh my gosh, what do I bring? What are you bringing? What are you bringing?
Yeah.
Because if it was really just about going out and getting the same thing we've always gotten, and I just want to use this one lens that I've always used and take this one picture of this one dog in front of this one building every single day, and that's my creative objective, then it's pretty easy. But given that our creative objective is to, at least speaking personally, my creative objective, if I'm not testing gear, if I'm just doing it personally, what am I interested in? I'm most interested in going to a new place and exploring and getting a flavor for that place and being inspired by that place, by the people, by the buildings, by the things, by the light, and discovering it along with the camera. And we talked about that in our travel episode of why do we travel? Why do we like it? Why do I take landscape pictures in these beautiful places? Partly to experience the beautiful places, because sometimes you just stop and say, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah.
But keeping it simple also means, how do I then not lose sight of my objective of why I'm there? If I'm there to explore and experience, like Josh is saying, why do I want to get mired down and caught up in the technical minutia of trying to learn everything new at the same time? So I completely agree. I think the easiest thing to kind of hit William's point, Josh's point, and echo that is, what if 80% is stuff that you're already comfortable with, and you just throw in 20% that, you know what, either you haven't fallen in love with it yet, or you want to give it a shot, or you want to try something new. So it's not a huge risk, and it's not overly complicating where I'm throwing everything new into the mix all at once.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I could say it better. And I want to address, bounce around a little bit, but still, Mark C says between 28, 35, 50 is the difference just a couple of steps away from your subject. Oh no, not even close.
Exactly.
Because focal length is not simply a matter of how big your subject appears in the frame relative to where you're standing. Focal length is about the depth of field or lack thereof based on the focal length. It's about, I don't want to call it distortion, but the relative size of the subject in the frame with what's being compressed or not in the background. Your creative expression is going to be different with all three of those lenses quite significantly. Not only that, when you say 28, 35, 50, that's not enough for me to make a recommendation in the sense of 28 lux, 35 sumrit, 50 noctilux, 28 elmerit, 35 lux, 50 vintage. I mean, those three lenses, which in your mind you may be thinking it's just a matter of a couple steps.
Those are the three most common focal lengths in Leica.
You could go into the field with those three, and if you've carefully assessed your creative objectives and you've thought about those three lenses, and you go with three that were maybe very, very different, or three that are very, very similar, that's going to change the way you shoot dramatically. And it's going to make your images look exactly the way you want, hopefully. And it's going to give you the power to control what you're doing without being overwhelmed by a huge focal length range, like with a 135 in there or a 21 or whatever. Let me just see some questions.
Yeah, and I would also say
Yes.
in terms of the stepping thing,
Yes.
and we talked about that, I think in the
That's a great
previous
point,
episode.
Mark.
It
Thank
is.
you.
It
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
So the difference between, let's just take a 28 and a 50, because those are it's a great 2-lens simple kit.
Yeah.
That happens to be what Kirsten uses. She's a 28-50 shooter. So if it's really just 2 steps closer, why carry the 50? Because it's a completely different perspective. When you frame the same subject size in a 28, that means you have to get, it's more than 2 steps. Let's say you get about 3 big steps closer with a 28 versus stepping back with a 50. The difference is, I like to say, the 28, you feel like, because I'd be at this distance here with the 28 and filling Josh with the frame.
Yeah.
Or filling the frame with Josh.
Yes.
Because Josh, that's like Chuck Norris joke right there. It's like,
So the frame doesn't fill, Josh.
Right, Josh fills it,
the frame or whatever. Yeah, okay,
whatever.
got it.
so yeah, it's this old rule. This is like a photojournalism rule that if you could touch the person's shoulder and shoot it with a 24 or 28 wide open, they're going to be focused at about a meter, and everything else would fall off. But it has this very immersive feel to it, that you feel that you are a participant in what's happening, that you have a connection there. When you start getting to a 50 and longer, now I'm stepping all the way back. I'm very disconnected from my subject, and visually, it's more voyeuristic. You're an observer from the outside. When you shoot with a 28, you're a participant on the inside. And I'm sure I will say those exact words when we do our 28 episode, but you'll all forget about it.
Yes.
You'll forget.
So,
And-
guys, let me ask you something.
Yes.
And see what your opinion is on this. William made a comment that says the iPhone has had a great impact on photography. It has changed the game.
Yeah.
Sure.
How would you apply this to this episode, basically? Like, how do you, combine that,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
how photography is nowadays, and
Yeah.
the technology and everything? And
Well, go ahead.
It's complicated.
We both have strong feelings on this, I suspect. We both have iPhones also, so.
We have iPhones. Okay. I take iPhone pictures every day.
Me too. I took some literally on the way here, so I was driving with my phone.
But I would say that those do not satisfy my soul, my creative soul.
Yeah.
They are of a room so I can pick out furniture. That's what I use a phone for.
Yeah.
For me, it's just a documentary tool. Would I take a pretty picture and post it to social media? Sure, I'll take a selfie, with my daughter or something and post it on Facebook. But when I critically look, even with the iPhone 12 Pro Max, I think I just said that right.
Yeah.
Shooting in RAW and whatever, it's still such limited dynamic range.
Yeah.
It's still, pretty grainy if you go in past just a phone
I think
size.
to simplify that, I think if you're okay with the pictures only ever being on your phone,
That's it. That's
that's
it.
awesome, which I do all the time. But if you want to do literally anything else
Yeah.
with the photographs, then you'll need something better.
Yeah.
Depending on your standards, I guess. But like if you're watching the show, your standards are probably higher
pretty
than
high,
that.
yeah.
So look, David and I both love our phones. We use them every day, but it's not going to take the place of any Leica that we ever are going to use. I mean, who knows what the future holds, I guess. But there's still a long way to go. So
Computational photography that Apple's using can only overcome physics so far. I think that's my catch, is like the reason they're able to do the things and even get any kind of reasonable dynamic range or reasonable light gathering capability is because they're stacking 20 photos.
I want to
And
say, Mike
sticking it all
says,
together?
Mike was on a plane. He sent me an email. He
Yeah.
says, something very funny. Hold on. Best Leica-related in-flight entertainment ever. How much other Leica-related in-flight entertainment is there? I don't know.
I think we're going to corner the market.
I think also, yes. That's my only goal in life, is to one day be on an airplane and see somebody watching our show, like a recorded
Wow,
episode.
that would be amazing. Yeah.
I'd be like, I know
That'd
that guy. That's the guy's a giant nerd.
Great. Okay, why don't we get to some specific examples, because we have a lot of specific examples that we outline.
We've done a lot of conceptual
This
conversations.
I think that, we spent the last 20 minutes
It's going on and on.
pontificating. And,
Well, David, why don't you? I brought some choice pieces here.
Sure.
Not everything that we would ever use, but why don't you grab something that intrigues you and talk about how it helps you keep things simple?
Okay.
No pressure.
None at all.
Feel free. We have.
Now I have used.
Well, you've used all of it.
I have used all of these
many
things,
times. Yes.
and often as a creative exercise,
Yeah.
I will limit myself to a camera and a lens, or to a different kit to try to expand my creative realm and to just familiarize myself with a new tool and see how it stacks up. A lot of it is personal testing, but a lot of it is just fun because I enjoy trying out everything.
Yeah.
It's like if you're into cars, you probably like driving a bunch of different cars.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's take this one.
Good choice.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You feel like it's like the sommelier? Like,
Yes. You have to smell it
Yeah.
now. Does it have? How are the legs?
excellent choice. there. Excellent choice.
We are the worst. I'm so sorry.
All right. So this. Wait, Jose. Hold on. I'm gonna get in
You
big
gotta
trouble.
clean it up. Oh, if
Fingerprints.
Julie watches this and sees all the fingerprints.
Oh
on there,
gosh. Oh my
I gotta
gosh.
Clean out the gear before
All the
show.
evidence.
I can't show you anything until I wipe it down.
Okay.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay.
I think
It
we
looks
got
pretty
it.
good.
Yeah.
Now we can do a close up.
Okay. Now we can do a close up. So this. You would recognize. We've talked about this before.
To death, probably.
To
but, yeah.
death. This is an M10 monochrome and a 35. Am I actually in focus? Let's see. What? There we go.
There you go.
This is an M10 monochrome and a 35 Summilux aspheric FLE, or a floating lens element version. Josh, what's the part number on that?
11663. Come on, that's an easy one.
Come on, 11663. And this is our both Josh and I, when we talk about M lenses, this is our desert island lens.
Yeah.
And this camera is an interesting choice in terms of the monochrome. And Jose, you can come back to me. Okay, I'm a color photographer. There it is. But you know what? This camera, I've said it before, I will say it again, it is cheating. It is just absolute cheating because this makes everyone, including myself, look like a way better photographer than I really am. It does things with light and shadow that just seemingly get lost in color. It simplifies things, especially if I'm going to a busy environment. Like, for instance, this is one of my favorite setups to go to New York City.
Which is Subhash is asking about New
I
York.
didn't even see that. I didn't even see that.
I know you didn't. That's why it's funny.
So, and I started this journey with the original M9 monochrome
In the yarn shop.
in the yarn
remember
shop
that
in
shot,
Soho.
yeah.
You- something in Pearl.
I forget the name.
Knit and
yeah.
Pearl or whatever. No, just Pearl. Pearl is the name of the yarn shop. How do you remember that? How did I remember that? Yeah, I went up there just for a cold February weekend with my wife, just as a quick getaway. We did like a long weekend. And I said, I'm going to keep things simple. I'm not going to bring a whole thing because she'll often tell me, now, you know, this isn't a photography trip, right? Who out there has heard these words?
Yeah, and they
spoken
went
to
into
them?
one ear and right out the other.
Okay.
That's it.
She said, you know, this isn't a photography trip, so you're not going to be bringing a big camera setup. Because at that time, my most used camera, at that time, I was shooting the S2 with a bag of lenses,
Yeah,
okay?
backpack full, yeah.
She's like, this is just a getaway. We're just having a fun weekend. We're going to go see a Broadway show. We're going to eat. We're going to go to some museums. We're going to walk around Central Park. It's going to be great. And I'm like, simple. Okay, New York, in dreary winter weather, I'm thinking black and white. And up to that point, I considered myself a 50 millimeter shooter. That was the weekend that changed me for life. Because I tried the 35-1.4 FLE. It was about when this lens first came out. At the time, I was shooting a 50 millimeter 1.4 as my main lens, and I said, I'm going to try the 35. I'm going to get outside of my comfort zone, and I'm going to keep it simple. And I absolutely fell in love with it. It's kind of like seeing the world because I actually went back to New York to do my 246 monochrome review for the very reason because I fell in love with that city in black and white, even as a color photographer. And what did I use? Even the second time around, I used the 35-1.4.
Now, this is a great example of David using his data that he has, in this case, images in a particular place. And that, instead of having to wonder, like, what did I gear with this and that 5 cameras, he simply used the data he already had to make an efficient decision about his next trip.
And this was a lot simpler than the landscape kit that I would normally have carried.
Yeah.
So this ended up being a much happier trip from a personal perspective, and the photographic results were nothing to sneeze at. So that's when I fell in love with the monochrome. That's when I fell in love with the 35, and specifically the 35-1.4.
Yeah.
And this lens has been in my bag ever since.
I want to talk a little bit about one of the really, really big advantages of using the super high resolution cameras and the super, super sharp lenses in this modern era that it's a level of kind of flexibility we haven't really had until now. Leica kind of got us into this mindset with the original Q, and they've kept it going with the Q2, and I think it works pretty well with the current setup, which is when you had the M9 and the 240, and let's say you go to New York City with the 35, and you want to keep it simple, you don't want to be swapping lenses in the field, you may get into situations where a 35 just isn't long enough.
No.
Because maybe it's a building that's far away, or maybe it's someone just across the street.
Or you see something across the pond in Central Park, and it's just super tiny.
And we're only talking about maybe one scenario on your whole trip. So not like your whole trip was ruined because of it, just because
Exactly.
it's almost like a moment in passing. You're like, well, I guess I can't get that shot. Well, one of the benefits of using these super, super high quality lenses on these very high res sensors, I would say 40 megapixels and above, is you have the ability to crop. Now, that sounds so rudimentary, but it's often overlooked because, number one, I think some people like myself are a little snobby when it comes to cropping. I get that, but I'm over that now because what I've realized is for those occasional moments when I simply need a little bit of extra focal length to make an image that I want to make, I couldn't do it.
Right.
I saw a great, I had somebody in the store today, and he had a Q2, and he had a shot, and he showed me the whole frame, and it just looked like the dirt. I was like, okay. And he's like, wait. And he comes and he zooms in, and he crops it the way he creatively wanted it to be cropped.
Yeah.
And it's actually an ant dragging a caterpillar. Like, it was crazy. And in that moment, I was like, that's exactly why we have 47 megapixels.
Angels on the head of a pin, right?
Because
Seriously.
we now have the ability. I'm not saying you would do this for everything. I'm not saying this is a replacement for a longer lens. What I'm saying is we have the flexibility to keep it simple.
Yeah.
If your creative objectives are a certain scenario and you find yourself every now and then encountering something that's farther away, and you have an M10R, you have an SL2, you now have the ability to crop your 35 to a 50 or a 75.
I was having this very conversation today with one of the attendees who's coming on the workshop, who may or may not be watching right now because I told him to watch.
Okay.
But he's coming on the workshop. He's taking an S3, and we're talking about lenses. And I said, I recommended to him to bring a certain set of lenses. So a 24, because just you may not use it for every shot, but the ones you do use it for, they're going to be hanging on your wall. It's just 24.
This is to go to Iceland.
This is to go to Iceland.
Yes.
And okay, so talk about using data. I've been to Iceland
Many times.
eight-ish, maybe 8 or 9 times. So I've been there. I've photographed a lot of these locations. I know what works and what doesn't in general terms, separate of someone's individual creative choices. But I know that the 24 and the S Iceland just is amazing for that because you have a lot of strong foregrounds. You've got a lot of great landscape, huge skies. They don't call it the land of fire and ice for nothing. It often looks, at sunset, the sky just looks like it's on fire. It's amazing. So the 24, great. But I told him, I said, the most used lens in my S kit is the 45, which is like the 35 on full frame. And I said, that's a lens that's on there most of the time for most of the shots, and Iceland lends itself really well to that. I said, but also you want to pack your 180 because you got this really long lens. Now, I said, you don't really need anything in between 45 and 180 though.
Yeah.
And the reason is you've got 64 megapixels. Okay, the 45 has no distortion whatsoever. It's very flat field because even though it's equivalent to a 35, it is a 45, which call it a 50 millimeter lens, which is even perspective. That's one of the benefits of medium format is that a 50 millimeter lens, you have 50 millimeter perspective, 35 millimeter angle of view. We also covered that on our S episode and in the S lens thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a lens that is tack sharp, is flat across the frame, no distortion. So if you want a 90 millimeter of that 45, you're cropping in, but you're going to be left with what, 30 megapixels maybe?
Yeah.
I mean, which is plenty to do anything you want.
Yeah.
So you have easy coverage, and that 180, you can crop the heck out of it too.
Yeah.
The 24, I think, is a little different because it's so wide, you can't just crop it.
Yeah.
So then I said, you should also have a 30 or 35. But there we go. That may not seem simple recommending a 4-lens S kit.
Right.
But in my mind, it is simple because it's not a 7-lens S kit.
That's right.
I mean, hopefully that makes sense.
Right, because essentially what David is saying is simplicity in this case is not about one thing. Simplicity is making the most, giving yourself the most opportunity with the least amount of things.
Yes.
And some scenarios are just not going to lend themselves to one camera and one lens. If you're going to Iceland for a photo trip,
Take all the things.
right,
But not everything.
Your mindset's going to be a little different than if you're going to Iceland on a family vacation or if you're passing through for an afternoon or something on a layover. So here, the balance is less about minimalism and more about efficiency because you're still going to be hiking around. You're still going to be going through customs and flying and traveling.
But let's give a even more specific example.
Yes.
So
Even more specific.
even
that was
more,
incredibly
this
specific.
is very specific.
Okay.
Because we're traveling around by bus and we can leave all of our things on the bus. I would also not say that all 4 lenses in that kit are necessary on every single photo trip. Now, let's say we'll often stop the bus if we see something really cool formation of mountains, whatever, and we just get off the bus with 1 camera, 1 lens in hand and shoot handheld and get back on the bus. We affectionately call those, funny enough, iPhone stops. They're not really iPhone stops. We call it iPhone stops.
Yeah.
So everyone just gets off the bus, leave your stuff, leave your tripod, and in that case, I'd say grab the 180, just the 180 on your camera and go shoot this. Then let's say we're going to do a hike to this waterfall off in the Highlands, okay? I've shot it before. I can tell you there's no point in carrying a 180.
Yeah.
There's no point in carrying just carry your 24 and your 45 and that's it. So just 1 camera, 1 lens, and 1 extra lens, either, in a big pocket or a small bag. And you're keeping it simple in the context of the specific shoot of the moment.
Right, because one of the worst things you can do is miss a moment or miss a picture because you are thinking more about what lens or camera you're going to use and less about the picture you're going to make.
Right.
And that's part of that comes from planning and using the data you have available to you. And also the other part of that comes from not having 10 lenses you're not going to use and 2 lenses you are. So this logic applies to pretty much any kind of photography that you're going to do because, you have to stop yourself and say, what am I going to do? What am I not going to do? One of the scenarios that I see people get themselves into all the time, and I think this was in the chat as well, is maybe a street photography, New York type of experience or big city. And you know that you may get into a situation or two where you want to do some interior architecture, maybe something wide angle. So you say, well, when you go from a simple kit of maybe a body and 2 lenses, which can fit in a very small bag or no bag, just pocket, to even just adding 1 extra lens can dramatically change the size of your bag, the weight of your bag, your filter combinations, maybe you gotta bring a tripod, all this stuff. So I say, don't bring the 21 if all you're gonna do is maybe 1 or 2 wide angle shots.
Well, you talked about this earlier.
Yes, well, I was asking you, so if you are in a situation like this, you're in New York and you want to do a cathedral interior, but you're keeping it simple and you're being logical and honest about your packing strategy and your gear strategy, and all you've got is a 35, are you out of luck or what?
Okay, that's a hypothetical. I'm going to give you an actual real life scenario.
Okay, that works too. Is it going to be specific?
It's going to be specific.
Okay.
I was in Patagonia.
Okay.
Okay. I didn't have the right focal length for a very dramatic sunrise over Fitzroy in Argentina.
That's very specific.
It's super specific. We're standing on the hillside
Yep.
and this cloud just lights up like magic. And I'm using the S system. What I really needed was a 70. What I had was a 45 and a 120. And the winning shot was me shooting the 120 in a multi-shot panoramic.
So what David is talking about is making a wide angle lens from a not wide angle lens.
I took it this way and I went boop,
That's right.
shot, shot, shot. So I did 3 shots with a 120, which essentially gave me the perspective of what the 70 would have, just in much higher resolution.
And the reality is with a 35, for example,
you can-
2 shots
Yep.
vertically
Yeah.
can give you more field of view than you'd ever get with a 21. And you just stitch them together.
Yeah.
So-
and Lightroom is so good at that now. You used to have to use special programs. Now you can just go in the Lightroom film strip, click, 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 click. You can copy the exposure between them, and then just right click and say, merge to panorama, and it magically just puts them together.
Yeah, and it's amazing.
No tripod even.
Yeah.
You can, and I have done this. You can shoot like this, click, 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 or whatever, like that, even with a little bit of up and down, and Lightroom will magically just put them all together.
Yeah, so I'm not saying that that's a substitute for all your wide-angle photography. What I'm saying is keep it simple.
It's great in a pinch.
1-lens, 2-lens kit, you're good. You need a wide angle, couple stitches. You need something longer, bit of cropping, because you've thought ahead. You know you're keeping your kit simple, and you're bringing a high-res body with you.
Listen to this.
Yes.
As another not yet specific example. But let's say keeping it simple. I've got an S, no, that's an SL.
SL2 is
SL2S.
SL2 is here.
What's this?
This is an SL601.
Oh, so all right, let's just pretend that's an SL.
I can unplug it.
That's okay.
Okay.
So let's say that I have I'm going to cover that. Let's say this is an SL2.
Yes.
And I've got a 47 megapixel sensor. I've got a 35 on here, which this is keeping it simple, right?
Oh, yeah.
This is just like the M10 monochrome, 35 Summicron, incredible lens, not too big, great for travel or hiking. Let's say I want to take this out into the wilds, and I need a telephoto. This has an even simpler solution.
Ah, yes, very true.
Because if I put this on a tripod or a very steady rock, rocks happen, I can put this in multi-shot mode. It takes less than 10 seconds. It automatically creates, does an 8-shot minor shift of the sensor, done. And it assembles them all into a single DNG that's 187 megapixels. Now, think about how much cropping capability I have out of a 187 megapixel shot from this ultra sharp 35, because this 35 at f2 is sharper than pretty much anything else we have on this table.
No, not pretty much. Definitely.
Right. So I am not missing out on image quality or resolving power. And now I could easily have the equivalent of 135 millimeter focal length with still 35 to 40 megapixels.
And this is a great use case for when people say, do I need to have the Apo SL primes? Do I need to have a 50 Apo M? Do I need to have insert top quality lens here? And I would say not for everyone, but remember, the higher quality the lens is, the more flexibility you're going to have with that file after the fact, whether it's editing, cropping, any kind of manipulation, panoramic stuff, because it's got less distortion and the edges are sharper, whatever. That's one of the huge benefits of a higher quality lens. Like, we're talking about Leica here, so they're all pretty good, but I mean that upper echelon is you can do more with less because you have the ability to do all the things we said. Because if you had, let's say, a preaspheric 51.4 and you wanted to shoot maybe f2, f2.8, and you wanted to do a stitch, you probably have to do twice as many stitches because you couldn't use any of the edges of the lens.
Yeah, you'd have
soft.
Normally, like on a lens like this, you can do a 20% overlap.
Yeah.
On a lens like that, you have to do a 60% overlap just because you need to get that central zone that's sharp.
Yeah, exactly. So that's thinking about a gear strategy that's based around a very specific lens selection because you know what that lens is capable of beyond just being a good lens on your camera in that one moment. So these are the kinds of things that we're thinking about, and we're saying you should think about as you're getting out there. It's not just about one camera, one lens, or one camera and 10 lenses. It's about strategizing and being realistic about what you're going to bring, what you're going to do, and also encouraging yourself to try to do different things. Hey guys, you don't look too sharp. Are we soft? We feel like we're pretty sharp.
I feel sharp.
I feel sharp. SL2S does have multi-shot. Just to answer Scott's question. Are we not in focus? I feel like I don't know. We did lose power earlier. Did that automatically make us blurrier? Thanks for the feedback.
I don't know.
By the way. Anyway, well, Jose will play with it. We'll keep going. So, yes. Now, one of the other things I want to talk about is a topic that, well, do I want to do that? Or do I want to do a few bags? I think we can never talk about bags on the show unless I'm doing an infomercial for some.
I think we should stick to the SL just for another second because there's another scenario which I really believe is keeping it simple.
Okay, tell me. Then I want to show a couple of goodies here.
And this is my personal, when I want to keep things simple for the majority of my photography. This is my simple kit.
Just don't show the front of that lens.
This is my simple kit.
This
is my simple kit.
Yeah.
These days it could be an SL2S or it could be an SL2. Again, that's going to go back to, it depends of what the goal is, of what you're shooting. But I could easily see either of these choices working for the majority of most pictures. But the 24 to 90 is the thing that makes this a simple kit. And for me, this zoom holds a certain place in my heart.
You have a heart?
It holds a certain place in a cavity in my body.
There you go, that big hole in there.
Yeah, between my rib cage and my lungs, where that big.
Because it's a post-it note that says it depends. That's what's inside. That's what's inside.
I thought it was like some film in there and some processing chemicals.
Yeah, a little bit of that too.
All right. So the 24 to 90 was the first zoom from any manufacturer that I ever used. This goes back to 2015 when it came out with the original SL. And I've never been a zoom guy. I've always been a prime lens guy because I want that extra bit of quality and the beautiful bokeh, and you usually sacrifice that with a zoom.
Yeah.
There's always sacrifice for convenience until the 24 to 90 because this lens changed everything for me because it at every marked focal length, and we can go to a close-up here for dramatic effect. So at every marked focal length, at 24, 28, 35, 50, 75, and 90, it is as good or better than Leica prime lenses in a zoom. This is a zoom lens with no quality compromise. The only possible compromise, admittedly, is aperture. This is 2.8 to f4, maximum aperture, versus, say, a 35 1.4. Okay, clearly these are not the same lenses in terms of creative possibility. But in terms of keeping it simple, for me, this is about as simple as it gets without sacrificing any kind of flexibility or any kind of performance. So this is my SL simplicity kit.
And I think, some of the discussion will be around the size of this lens. And I definitely agree that in some scenarios, this lens is probably too big if you're trying to have a very minimal small kit. But the reality is that this
need a camera bag.
This lens is like 6 lenses in one.
Yes.
And you, as David said, you don't need a bag. So it really just depends on, do you want to have the weight in your hands?
Wait.
Oh, I said it depends.
If you're playing the drinking game at home, now's the time you take a shot.
Well, I said it depends on if you want to have the weight in your hands or the weight over your shoulder or the weight in a backpack. Like, it's all about where you want that to live. And do you want to have flexibility in your hands or flexibility in your bag? There's no right answer, of course, because it depends. But don't get caught up in the size of the 24 to 90 and automatically disqualified for everything. I'm not saying it's right for everyone or even most people.
Well, here's why it's simple.
Yes. The hood is not necessary. Don't use lens hoods, except when we say to use lens hoods.
Right. Don't do what we say not to do, except when we say to do it.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
I'll put that on a shirt.
Yeah. If you can ever repeat that.
Yes.
So the 24 to 90 means it's simple because
wait, it's not as good as the Apple SL primes.
Correct.
You forgot to enter that caveat. It's better than any other prime, but the Apple primes are.
Okay, let me rephrase.
They came out after.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, let me rephrase. So this is as good or better than any Leica M lens circa 2015. Okay? So is it as good as the 35 Apo-Summicron M?
No.
No. Okay, it's not.
Right.
Is it as good as the 75 Noctilux? No, it's not. But those lenses came out after 2015.
Exactly.
So
that's the caveat.
So there's a little asterisk, number footnote at the bottom. Okay, this is still, but if I compare it to the 35-1.4, or I compare it to a classic 50 Cron, or if I compare it to a 50 Lux aspheric, or a 75 Apo, or
we get it.
Okay, whatever, 24 Elmar. This is as good.
It's better.
Or better
in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
And that's really where this shines over the 24 to 70, 2.8, which we talked about a lot in that episode, is that lens is great, size, weight, price.
Yes.
This lens is just insane. And yes, it's heavier and more expensive, but there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
It's not just because it depends, it's because there's a reason. So.
And it has optical image stabilization.
Yes.
Which was great on the SL601, but when combined with the in-body image stabilization of the SL2 and SL2S, it's like 6 stops of image stabilization. So you can handhold it in environments that you wouldn't believe that you could.
Yeah.
This lens is keeping it simple. I'm not constantly changing lenses. I'm not juggling with a camera bag. I've got this usually on a peak design slide light strap, and it's hanging down on my side. I don't really feel the weight because it's resting on my hip with the lens down. So I'm supporting it with my body. It's not it's really, for me, this is not that heavy, and I'm not like a huge guy.
Better than S lenses, Larry. Definitely.
Different than S lenses.
But better, though. I mean, the S lenses give you a different look. The S lenses are very much like M lenses in the way they render.
They're like a cross,
But
right?
sharper.
Right.
It's like M lenses, S lenses, SL zooms, and then
Yes.
SL apo primes.
Yes.
So SL apo primes, the sharpest it gets. SL zooms, the next sharpest. S lenses, the next sharpest, and M lenses, excluding like the crazy ones, are the next.
Yeah.
So that's like the hierarchy.
But,
Yes.
I mean, to be fair, because this is always like, but how is that possible? It's like, okay, so this is a 35.
This is not just any 35.
I know, but I'm just, hold on.
Okay.
I'm just segueing here. If you get a close up of that, Jose, I mean, that, and here, take the back cap off. I mean, that is the difference, okay? So, of course, this is a whole different ball game than this.
Craig, if you're watching, you know what that lens is because he has one.
Yeah. So I can let Josh talk about that one.
Yeah, that's for later, I guess. But I think that it's easy to dismiss something because of its size, weight, price, or specs. But the reality is, if your creative objectives are being in an environment where changing lenses is not an option, or you're not going to bring 5 Apo SL primes, 24-90 is a very valid way to go, especially if you're working on a tripod. For landscape photography, this lens is phenomenal.
For walk-around photography, I can't tell you how many trips I have taken, not just this setup, but prior with the SL601, only the 24-90 and an SL with nothing else. And I mean, for me, that's about as simple as it gets. And I've done everything from family holidays to travel to landscape workshops to everything. I mean, this has just been an everything camera.
Yeah.
Starting with the original SL and picking up with the SL2 generation. And it's like amazing because it's just so automatic for me.
Yeah. Let's talk about a couple of accessories just so we're always talking about cameras and lenses. I brought a couple of like little things that I think are part of that keeping it simple process. One of them is, I probably talked about this neck strap before, probably a lot. This is a strap by Arte di Mano, which is a brand that we enjoy very much. They have cases and straps and bags and all the goodies they make. This is what's called a Komodo neck strap. Very simple.
Let's get a close up on that.
Yeah, he's working on it. Very simple, thin leather strap. Extremely high quality, extremely durable. This is the one that's in Rally Bordeaux, though which is a red. But this is a very, very well used strap. And the reason I brought this one instead of one that's say like brand new and shiny is because this one is broken in. And what this strap allows you to do is 2 very useful things. Number one is when you put it on the camera, which I'm not going to do because I don't have my split ring pliers, is when it's in the bag, you can very easily wrap
Let's get a close up on that,
around the lens to store it in a very, very small, minimal bag, and you get a little bit of additional padding from the strap. I usually try to do it a little nicer, but you get the idea. So because the strap is so light and so flexible, and there's no shoulder pad, there's no like buckles, it's because it's non-adjustable, I can store this in the bag. Here we go. So just imagine that. So you've got a little extra protection for your lens, and I can store this in a very, very small bag. The other advantage of this strap, let me just unwind it here, come back to me, Jose, is because it's so light and flexible, this works equally well as a hand strap as it does a neck strap. So I now have 2 straps in one, and I have a bit of extra protection from my bag in one. All I did was just pick this strap, consciously picking this strap, and suddenly I have something that's a very versatile accessory because it's so flexible and so sort of
Pliable.
supple, lithe, perhaps. I can take
thesaurus.
I can take this and wrap it around my hand, and suddenly I have a hand strap. Because again, there's no shoulder pad, there's nothing in the way, there's no buckles or adjustment mechanisms. It's just a simple strip of leather.
Yep.
So this strap isn't right for everything. It's not ideal for like super heavy lenses like a 75 or a 50 Noctilux, but for a simple street or travel kit, a thin, non-invasive, flexible leather neck strap like the Komodo from Arte di Mano is super useful, especially when it gets nice and soft and broken in. The wrapper works a bit differently when the lugs are attached. No, not really. The way I showed it was I had it, I'm holding it on the lug, so no.
You can't wrap the end.
No, you can't. You wouldn't. No, you wrap it from the. You basically start it from
the middle.
Here,
right,
and then wrap it around.
Yeah,
but it works really well, and I do this literally every day,
Yeah.
so it really is pretty nice.
But let's give credit for that one though.
Yeah.
So our colleague Kirsten is a huge proponent of that.
Yes.
And if your rope strap, silk cord strap is pliable enough, some are a little thicker gauge and a little less flexible. But if you get a thinner rope strap, they can work on that as well. What you don't want to do is a strap like this that has all sorts of buckles and hardware and do the same because you don't want to dent your lens.
But this is actually a different, keep it simple strap.
That is.
Oh, this is it. Let me get the name right. An ACAM E25 Easy Adjust. ACAM E25. This is by Artisan and Artist, a Japanese brand. And this is an interesting strap for a few reasons. Number one, it allows you to hold a much wider range of lenses because it's more substantial. It's extremely adjustable. It has like this sort of slider system, which allows you to very quickly adjust the length. So if you want to go crossbody or like over your neck, depending on your objectives at that particular moment, you can do it. And it does have, what's nice is basically like a little hand strap built into it right here, which is also adjustable. So it kind of works 2-in-1. It's a little bit larger. It's actually going to necessitate a slightly larger bag, like if you're going super efficient with your bag. So this is not the most compact strap, but from a weight distribution and functionality standpoint, it does a lot. So if you're switching from an M10 monochrome with a 28 Elmarit to an M10 monochrome with a 135 Apo or 75 Noctilux, this strap will work equally well for both.
So do you know who uses that strap?
You use that strap.
I do use this strap.
I was going to say.
This is the strap that I use. I have a little different color, but I use it on my CL. And Josh always takes the strap off to put the CL on the table, off my camera, and I have to put it back on.
And it folds up pretty nice, but it's not leather, so it's not going to be nearly as malleable. No. It's a different type of strap, but it's still very, very nice. And this is the red one, which makes it easy to see in your bag, but they come in black and other colors. Another sort of packaging related.
Someone asked a question about what strap for the SL2, and I'm gonna reach over here.
Don't mind him. He's going into the magic box.
Never mind. I actually put it into my travel bag because I need to take it on my trip.
Okay.
But I use it used to be sitting right over there. I use a Peak Design slide light, which also for me is kind of keeping it simple because instead of needing lugs, I feed the little end pieces through here, and then I have little ears from if you're familiar with Peak Design.
The anchors, they call them, right?
The anchors,
Yep.
Anchors, And so I love that for landscape photography because, one, the strap is pretty substantial, so I can hold an SL and a 24-90 confidently cross-body. But it also means when I put it on a tripod, especially in a windy environment, you don't want the strap flapping around. So I'll just unclip it and then furl it up and put it in my pocket. So the camera now doesn't catch the air, it doesn't shake and wobble if it's windy out. And then when I'm ready to pick it up and go handheld again, I just take the thing out, snap, throw it on, pack up the tripod and go.
Yeah.
So for me, that's just been the most efficient way of traveling, and I'm gonna shout out Peter for turning me on to that particular solution.
There we go.
See, we don't have to invent these things. All you have to do is see that one person doing it,
and steal it.
Why don't I do that?
And then we always give credit though where it's due. We try to. Anyway,
the internet, I did that.
Before I want to show this cool little guy here. But Jose, are there any questions that we missed that we really should address right now?
There was one earlier
that
you guys want to address.
Fire away.
So Richard was asking, wife and I are going to Greece for 3 weeks next year, and I'm struggling with which lenses to bring with my CL. I have all of them except the 28 and 18. Maybe he means the 23.
The 23 maybe?
Yeah. And 18.
Okay. Sounds like you're set.
Yeah, right? Well, a lot of that's going to depend on your bag strategy because...
Also where in Greece they're going or what they're shooting.
True, but creative objectives.
Wait, are we doing the It Depends episode?
It seems like it. It seems like it. But I think if you want to keep it simple, you said you had every lens but those 2 primes. Bring the 3 zooms and call it a day.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, I don't know in Greece if you need a 55-135.
Maybe, but if you're going with your family too, the nice thing about the zooms is everybody expects every lens to be a zoom. So if you hand the camera off to someone else, they're going to zoom in and they're going to get the picture. So I think that gives you a lot of flexibility.
Yeah.
The nice thing about the zooms as well is if, let's say, the first half of the day is more like a photography-centric day. You can bring all three and have a huge range of flexibility. If the second half of the day is more like family, out with friends type of thing, you could just bring the 18 to 56, and that's a very, very minimal kit.
But I gotta say,
I
gotta say,
The 35.
you gotta bring the 35.
The thing about the 35 though is you
gotta
don't
bring the
need it
35.
if you're going to be shooting in daylight.
No, but
And you can keep, but you can keep a much simpler setup
Yep.
for a much wider variety of situations, and you can use a very small bag. We both love the 35-1.4 TL lens.
Yes.
But it's a lot more limiting, and you have to ask yourself, are you going to be wishing you had a 1.4 lens or not? We don't know because we don't know what you're going to be doing.
I'm just visualizing that you're going to Greece and you're going to be sitting on some beautiful balcony overlooking this Aegean Sea. I don't know what it is. Is it the Aegean Sea?
I don't know.
Geography people help me
It's
out.
about the Trojan horse.
No, that's not. No.
Is that Greece?
Yeah, I guess it's Greece.
Yeah.
That's Troy. I don't
No,
know.
whatever.
Okay. So you're sitting on some, stone laden flowers thing and like overlooking the water and there's candlelight going and stuff. You're going to want that 35.
Okay, so what he's describing, if that scenario that he's describing is one you think you're going to encounter, then yes. But that's why you need to ask yourself, what are my creative objectives based around the scenarios?
Yeah.
Because a photo trip is one thing, a family trip is another, a business trip is another. Each of those trips, the opportunities you have and the packing strategies you're going to have are going to be different generally, just in general. Obviously, there's always case by case, but I want to talk about something new from Oberwerth.
Oh,
So
okay.
Oberwerth is a bag company. Everything's handmade in Germany. It's all beautiful stuff. This is a brand new product. They just redesigned.
Here, Richard actually replied.
What?
Going to Santorini and the mainland, was thinking 11 to 23, 35, 55, 135. I say go for
That's
it.
a great setup.
Done.
Done. Love it. You did good.
You know what? You satisfied Josh's requirement
That's
and
right.
my requirement. Let's call it a day.
All right. This is a brand new product from Oberwerth, and you'll have to forgive me. This is actually, I pulled a brand new one, so it's still a little stiff. The leather hasn't had time to get nice and soft yet. This is the updated version of the Oberwerth crossbody holster. And when it comes to keeping it simple, especially with these one camera, one lens setups, this is an interesting concept because Leica has been making holsters for some time, but they're half as much as this. What I mean is, Leica's sort of holster is only the part that the camera slides into, which is cool if you're using a wrist strap. This is really a wrist strap type of setup here, right? Just to be specific. But it doesn't allow you to actually protect the camera or throw the camera into another bag. You have to take it out of the holster, put it into your bag, and that becomes another thing you have to bring, and it complicates your setup. What's cool about the Oberwerth holster is that it has a magnet here. Here we go. Show it from the back. That makes it essentially like a little camera bag, and then the magnet just simply unclips. And of course, as this leather becomes softer, this will just sit flat, which is the goal, right? For like this. And suddenly now you have like a quick draw holster setup. Wait, here we go. For your camera. This will fit an M10 or a Q2. And what I like about this,
Why don't you throw this in there and see what it looks like?
oh, okay. Let's see. There we go.
There's
So
our
now-
simple monochrome setup in
See
action.
here. So here we've got our monochrome. It's got a little safety strap here to keep it from falling out. And now I put this over. So now I have my fully protected setup, which I can just either throw over my shoulder, throw it into my suitcase or whatever. And then as soon as I want quick access to it, I just let this hang down, unbutton the snap here, and literally just pull the camera out. Again, this is not really going to work with a neck strap. This is a wrist strap or hand strap setup, which is something that for doing street work is convenient. What's cool is that Oberwerth added, I'm just gonna show this here, this little cutout on the back for a thumbs up or a thumb support.
Oh, nice.
So, because previously with some of the holsters, you couldn't
Sure.
have a thumbs up because it would be
course.
sticking.
It would protrude. yeah.
And this sort of lens section is large
You
enough.
happen to have a camera with a thumbs up right
this,
there.
This lens section is large enough to actually accommodate even a noctilux. So there, see, there's the thumbs up or the thumb support, which would stick out. And look at that.
Well, that's really cool.
Super cool.
Wow.
And what's also cool about this is, I'm going to take this out real quick. At the bottom, if I can show this, let's see here, bear with me. These are actually removable, these little, or this little piece. So
Ah.
depending on the camera you're using, you can effectively size this case differently.
Nice.
So this is like something that I don't think is thought about that much because it's a very unconventional item. And again, if you're using a neck strap a lot, this is not ideal. But for quick access, simple setup hand strap shooting, like street travel, and when you want to be able to throw the camera in another larger bag or a suitcase, and you don't want to bring another camera bag, this is awesome. This is the Oberwerth crossbody holster. Comes in a couple colors. It's got a nice substantial strap with a pad on it, so it does work well even with larger lenses. So
Sweet.
just something different, something I
Sweet.
haven't shown before on the show.
Nice.
And you even get a little Oberwerth sack. Look at that.
It's like a shoe bag.
So nice. This is if you want to abduct your Leica enemies, you just put this over their head.
Sure. Sure.
Okay.
Here, so
having
we're showing off bags. Why don't you give me that handsome blue bag?
Oh
over
yeah,
there?
we love this one.
Okay.
Got it?
This is also one of Kirsten. Actually, Kirsten has this bag.
There you go.
So here's a minimalist bag that is loved by the minimalist among us.
Yes.
This is a Billingham Hadley Digital.
We
You can get a close up. There we go. And it's Billingham, so made in England. Handsome, sort of treated canvas with with brass and leather hardware.
So fancy.
So fancy. And this one is nice. The configuration is kind of interesting. So I'll explain. Yeah, give me an M.
Okay.
So what I like to do, here's a camera, and we can either, because you have that central padded or hole there, I can set the camera down like this. That also means that in case my particular setup happens to be a 28-35-90, let's say, I can just lift the flap here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Lift the flap. One lens goes here, although I would put them face down. I wouldn't put them face up. All right, go like that. And I'm going to take my 90, put it in the other side, and you'll notice the flaps completely cover them, separating the lenses, and I can still take the camera and rest it like that. So, and then we have a nice pad on top, and there it goes. So we can come back here to the full shot, and you can see I've got a nice little compact setup with 3 small M lenses in a very small and handsome bag.
Well, one of the nice things about this bag, and this is also something that happened in the store today, is if you're going somewhere that's a little more upscale, whether like a nice dinner or a cocktail party or a wedding or whatever, you could much more easily get away wearing a classy bag like this around your suit jacket or
For sure.
dress or whatever, versus maybe the more traditional looking Ona bag or think tank bag that's just more functional. Like this is really, I mean, okay, it's in the eye of the beholder, but in my uninformed opinion, this is a little bit classier, especially if you go black. But even this blue is really, really nice.
I like this navy. It's like, I don't know, to me it feels like just very British and classy.
Yeah.
So this is nice. You could also reconfigure it if you wanted to. If you don't like putting top down, you could reconfigure it where the camera goes in sideways, move the dividers, and then use what was on the back of one of these lenses, the 90, which is one of our favorite keeping it simple accessories.
Yes. You want to take this?
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Well, I'm going to take it back in a second. But
Okay. Well, I'll hold on to it for you.
there we go.
Okay,
So if you
see.
could just give me a close-up on that. So this is an Optech back-to-back cap.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, but we're always happy to show it again.
Bears
which is
repeating.
One of the nicest ways to make the most out of your bag space.
Instead of this, I now have, you got to go to the little, there we go.
And they're gasketed too, so that they won't get dust or moisture inside the lens mount. Which
Yeah,
is
let me show that. So this is, if I take that off, there's a rubber gasket that goes around the whole perimeter there. And they snap on nice and securely in opposite directions. And the thing is, when lenses are like this, they'll never touch each other in the bag because they're attached. So if I could have the bag back, please. And if we look here, because first of all, I'm just going to show you from the outside. If you look at the height of an M lens and the height of a normal camera bag, it just so happens that now 2 lenses takes up the same space as 1 lens in a camera bag, where now it fits perfectly, or almost, well, in that case, almost perfectly. And I would reconfigure this divider here out so that when I put the camera in, this divider,
little hard to do this on camera.
It's
so
a little
forgive
hard to
us.
do this on
Forgive
camera
us,
and
forgive
backwards.
us.
Okay, so I've got the lens on the side, and then I would put the camera in here, and you can see now I've got the camera going sideways.
Someone's asking if this will fit the SL2. I bet you if we take out the other divider. This is actually this would be a good field test here.
So the back-to-back cap is amazing
I got it.
for a small M kit.
All right, so let's see who's asking that. That is Ed
Let's see.
Adorox. Sorry. Will it fit an SL2? Here's an SL2 with a 35 apo.
Wait, is this like, will it blend?
Let's not try that. The answer is yes, I think.
Maybe. I'm going to take both
Yeah,
inserts
take
out.
all the dividers out. Struggle with the Velcro some more. Here we go. Oh yeah. Show the tilt it over. Get a close up, Jose.
It's fine.
Yeah. I wouldn't fit a 24 to 90 in there, but
No.
with a prime or with M lenses, totally.
Yeah, or you could also fit it going down. If I put the supports back in on the sides,
Yeah. You could fit a charger or some batteries in there too.
well, remember, this has a pretty wide front pocket.
True.
So you could easily fit, I mean, if I can fit my phone up there.
Your iPhone Pro 12 Max.
Yeah,
whatever.
but you could easily fit a charger. You see how loose the phone is.
Yeah. Will the wide angle lenses retriever elements fit in the back text? Some of the super wides do not. That's a good question. Not all M lenses fit in the back-to-back caps. I'll have to
Yeah,
test
like
and
it's
see.
21 super angulon will not.
Yeah.
for instance.
Another little packing strategy that I like to use, which kind of goes in a similar vein as
This,
as the Oberwerth holster, but a lot less involved, is this product by Artisan and Artist, who makes also that red strap I showed. This is a pretty well known type of object. What this basically is a body pouch that accommodates a lens. So it's neoprene. It's all like handmade Japanese. It's super high quality with a large kind of Velcro section here. And what this allows you to do is not bring a camera bag, still have protection for your camera when it's hanging around your neck but not in use, and also when you want to toss it in another bag. Someone had commented about putting a camera bag insert in a non-camera bag to look discreet.
Sure.
Just imagine having a regular bag and just throwing this in there. And what's cool is I can't actually show because I don't have a strap on any of these cameras. It's here like this. If I can get a close up, Jose, I will show this. There actually are cutouts here for the camera strap to go through this. So you can actually have this case and have the camera around your neck. Also throw this into your bag. This also works really nicely to cushion other stuff in your bag if it's not being used on the camera. This is the ACAM 414, and it fits a Q2, as you can see, perfectly, or an M with any lens. So just another handy, flexible product. On that vein, the last thing I'll show before we go on to the next sort of topic in this similar concept is another Artisan and Artist thing that I use quite a lot, which is this. Again, not a new concept by any means. This is the ACAM 80. This is a neoprene lens wrap. And basically, this is just a big flat piece of, well, you could go to the wide shot, it's too big, of neoprene that's got this really nice soft touch material on the inside so it won't scratch your gear, and a nice like water sheathing something on the outside, and a nylon band.
That's nice.
I left the tag on here, it's very tacky. I wanted to show a nice new one, sorry. That effectively acts as like a rubber band to keep this all wrapped up. And what's cool about this is this can serve a couple of purposes. This obviously is designed to wrap around your camera or your lens to protect it while it's in your bag while you're in transit. This also works great as an in-a-pinch bag divider if you're moving setups around. This is great if you're doing any kind of like sensor cleaning or strap changing in the field and want something to put your camera on if you don't have like a nice surface to do that on. I use that a lot as well because it's pretty thick. Not great for a really, really small bag because it's just a little too beefy for that.
It's
So
sizable.
this is not something you'd like put a deluxe in and put it in your little Ona bag. But this is really, really handy just to have around. And because it's so flat, I'll usually just take it like this and stick it in the bottom of the camera bag. Like I just add this to the bottom of the bag and it just acts as extra padding until I need it. And then I just pull it out and I can use it and wrap it however I want. So ACAM 80 and the ACAM 414.
Nice.
Two cool little gizmos that are not $1,000. So, there you go.
It's not all about the expensive things. Sometimes it's the little things.
not.
I mean, this is another.
Oh yeah, show them that.
Yeah, this is another example of a keeping it simple, keeping it minimal type of thing. Let's say that, I carry the M and a 35, and I've got it in this neoprene case. Okay, great. But I want a 90 because look, that's just me personally. I like to have a little close-up lens, and I just threw the 90 here. Actually, here I'll say a 75.
I don't know if that'll fit in that one. I didn't bring the right case for that. No,
Oh,
no,
the 90.
Yeah,
The 90
There's different
is.
sizes. I just happened to grab the size that was closest to me.
The 90 it is.
There we go.
And here we go.
Okay, there we go.
So all I have to do. Ooh, this is also an Oberwerth case. So let's get a close up on that. There we go. Okay, and I just kind of open this sucker up, and it's got a lot of padding and felt galore, as well as some Velcro to keep things steady.
Super cool.
And I just throw it right in there, close the Velcro up, and then wrap and roll. So this has a lot of padding, and then it's got a little cute little tie, and you just kind of do that and throw it in your bag, and it's nice and secure where you can just put this in your hand luggage or, you know, in a regular backpack or something like that to have if you're not going to use it a lot, but you want to transport it safely for a particular purpose.
This is called the Donau. Sebastian, if you're watching this, I'm sure you could pronounce this better than I could. But this is
Isn't that named after a city?
I don't know. I just know it's useful. That's all I know. They come in like 4 sizes. There's like a small, medium, large, extra large. This will be Kirsten's job to piece this all together.
And it doesn't weigh anything. Yeah, it's really lightweight, but offers some nice protection.
Oh, David, this last question is it's got your name written all over.
Yeah, oh gosh.
Yeah, I'll ask you to.
Yeah,
okay?
please.
Move your hands. Suzanne asks, would you check in your large Pelican case with an assortment of camera and lenses, obviously well padded with inserts?
Okay, so, and I'm going to have Jose come to the screen in a second. I'll tell you when, because it's going to be an interesting surprise. So we did.
What are you doing over there?
I don't know what I'm doing.
You click in.
I think inspiration.
Search for the word Pelican. It's much faster.
No, I got it. Here we go.
Okay.
So.
David's making this take as long as possible.
Yeah, I am.
That's his specialty.
I mean, kind of. Where is it? Was it this or was it the one before?
That's why I said to search for the word Pelican.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to search for the word Pelican, which is what I should have done.
I know these things because I look for this stuff all the time.
Right. Search feature.
There you go.
Oh, it was that.
And that's
In David's workshop case. Okay.
found it. Jose. There we go.
Let me make it bigger so you guys can see it. There we go. Let's fill the frame. Now, this is a Pelican case. As you can see, it is a Pelican, what is the name of it? Pelican Air 1650. So this is
1615.
a 1615, the Pelican Air 1615. So it's 72 linear inches, which is the maximum checked baggage allowance before it goes to oversized or specialized luggage. And this is actually one of 2 workshop cases that Peter and I have taken around the world. I have 2 of these. We checked them in. We've checked them from everywhere from Norway, Iceland, Patagonia, New England, everywhere. We have taken these on check planes all around the world with that amount of gear. If you want to do the math in your head about how much 2 S kits and 3 SL kits cost, that's on you. I don't really want to think about it. I can tell you that fully loaded, it weighs 70 pounds, and that's definitely heavy. Team lift. But yeah, I've never had any problems. We haven't had any broken equipment, and we haven't had any lost equipment. But almost universally, I always get a little love note from either U.S. Customs or the TSA saying that they opened and inspected it. So what I recommend, and I probably linked it in the article, is TSA compatible combination locks, luggage locks with steel straps. So I put 2 locks on this that are TSA safe so they can open it without bolt cutters and then relock it to save it from, being tampered with. So yes, you can.
So yeah, there you go. Now, this is not most people's definition
That's not simple.
of
That's
keeping
not
it
simple.
simple, but the reality is for the environment that David is experiencing, which is this workshop gear heavy environment, that's actually a simple setup.
Because it's one bag.
It's one bag. Yeah. It's one bag he just gives away. He's planned ahead of time. He knows what's going to happen, and we don't have to drag it around with him.
And also, it stays organized. You'll notice that it's easy for us to see. In fact, we don't have any on the table, do we?
What do you look
for this shot, we made it look pretty by taking all the lens caps off.
Oh, yeah.
But all the lens caps actually have, this one doesn't have a lens cap on it.
They're labeled.
Yeah, so I use a Dymo label printer, and it says, because they're all 82 millimeter diameter. So it'll say 90 to 280, 24 to 90, 1635. So what's convenient is if we're in the middle of a shoot, we just slide the case out, usually just put it on the ground, flip it open, and immediately we can see what lens is what, and just pull out, hand it off, and we're done. And close the case up, throw it back in the truck. So it is simple because it's not only a great way to carry it safely, but also a great way to organize it, access it, and stay organized.
There you go.
While
This is a great example of how simple doesn't actually mean not a lot of gear.
yeah, that's a lot.
Simple is simply about, simply,
Simply.
thinking through so that when you're in the field and when you're shooting, you're not overwhelmed. You're not spending time tinkering instead of shooting. You're just prepared. Let's
Let me go back to the question.
go back to the questions because we probably have more. Well, Jose, you have not been earning your Tijuana Flats dinner tonight, so let's ask some questions for us.
All right, let's go to some questions.
And yes, it has wheels.
Yes.
If you didn't, I'd
yeah.
die.
Yes.
All right, so one of the last questions is which has a quieter mechanical shutter sound, M10P, SO2, or Q2?
M10P. Well, the Q2 is the
leaf
quietest.
shutter, yeah.
M10P is the next quietest. SL2, except the SL2 has the ability to use an electronic shutter. So does the Q2,
yeah.
which is 100% silent. So mechanical shutter though, M10P is the quietest because the Q2 doesn't have a mechanical shutter; it has a leaf shutter. But between the Q2, or excuse me, the M10P and the SL2, M10P is quieter. That shutter they softened up for the M10P and M10R and M10 monochrome and M10D is ridiculously quiet. I mean, it's really actually quite an achievement that they did that.
It's almost disconcerting the first time we heard it. We're like, did it fire?
Did it break? Is it broken? Yeah,
broken?
exactly. It's pretty
And the
loud.
weird thing is, it sounds almost the same if you take the lens off. That's the weird thing. If you actually listen to it, the shutter sound without the lens, it sounds loud. And then you put the lens on, and it's like, wait, did it work?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super weird. I've learned my lesson. We have crazy noise reduction on our microphone.
Yeah,
so
you're not gonna be able to get it.
even if I tried, it would sound like nothing. So
Right, it would not be accurate to scale. So Jose, what else we got?
Yeah, so this is not a question, but I think it's a good statement.
Okay.
For everybody also to, for tonight's episode, it's a good tip. Stefan says, my keep it simple strategy when I'm on the move, Q2 plus SO2 with 50 Apple, 1 charger, 3 batteries, bag, Ona, Britain leather.
love it.
So,
That's awesome. That's a great setup. I would probably do something similar, except I'd probably bring a 75 or a 90 Apo because I shoot a lot of telephoto and I would just crop the Q2 to 50 if I needed to. But I love that because same battery, same charger.
Yeah.
You could even go with Peak Design anchors for both and use the same strap. You can be really, really efficient like that.
Yeah.
You could have the SL2 with a really right stuff tripod bracket on it. And the Q2 is your over the shoulder camera.
Love it.
Super streamlined. I love that. That's an awesome combo.
It's almost like I'm doing something similar.
It's almost like you're doing something similar. Yes. So that I think like just going out, I've gone out with just the SL2 and a 9280 because that's all I needed. And you would think that kit is so limiting. I'm like, well,
It's
okay,
simple.
if I'm trying to shoot, I don't know, a good example of wide angle stuff, but it would work. It wouldn't work. But my creative objectives are not that. In that case, mostly when I'm photographing cars, I'm shooting telephoto. So I can actually bring an SL2 in one lens. It's a big lens and a very sort of long skinny bag, very simple. And I don't even bring the bag with me when I'm out shooting. It's literally just the body with the lens.
Just to protect it en route.
Exactly. And then a battery or two in my pocket, and I'm good for the whole day. And that's awesome. So a simple kit can be a very specific kit. Simple doesn't have to mean it does everything because I don't need to do everything all the time. I just need the gear that works for the task at hand or the tasks at hand, depending on what I'm doing.
No, you can share batteries and chargers. I mean, that's even better. So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's one of the advantages of staying within a charger battery ecosystem, whether it's 240, 246, M10, M10 monochrome, M10R, is it's less chargers, less battery. I mean, everything is streamlined.
I mean, even thinking if you have an SL2, you could still use a SL601 as a backup because they use the same battery.
Someone says the Q2 electronic shutter is not silent. Let's find out. Well,
electronic?
if you have the sound turned on,
yeah.
there's
Acoustic signal.
there's a set. Yeah, that's under.
Show them.
Well, they're not going to be able to hear it, but
No, I mean, show.
Yeah, so if I this is a Q2, so if I go Q2, who asked that? Just so I can acknowledge Steven something. I can't see him here. Sorry.
So Rudy.
Steven Cerruti says it's not sound. So if I go electronic shutter, always on, and you can now take my word for it, it's not making any noise. But in the acoustic signal menu, in the main menu, which is on the 4th page, there is an option for electronic shutter sound. If that's turned on, it's going to make
And
a
you
sound.
have a little click.
It's like, I'll turn
kind
it
of
on.
like
It's
you
like
do on your phone.
It's like, yeah, it's playing a sound from the
but
speakers.
it's not real.
So as long as you go to acoustic signal and turn electronic shutter sound to off, the electronic shutter on the Q2 is 100% the same.
It is. I can't hear it.
There's nothing.
No.
All I hear is the aperture stopping down.
But they did that specifically because so many people kept taking multiple pictures because they think it didn't fire.
Right, because it's so quiet.
It's dead silent. And the same with the SL2 shutter is dead silent as well, with the electronic shutter. That comes in really handy if you're in an environment like, for instance, if you go into a church in Europe or something and there's a service going on, or you're going to a symphony. It's awesome to be able to shoot dead silent because no one is going to be looking at you, staring at you, and ushers aren't going to be escorting you forcefully out the door.
Yeah. Here we go. Due to its tiny size, asks Kit, will the 28 element M be difficult to use on the SL2 or S? No. I don't have an M adapter here, unfortunately.
You don't?
No, because
we do. It's on the front of the camera.
Oh, because you sent it to Peter. Okay.
No, we have one.
Crisis averted.
Crisis of our pod.
This is great because I
have
love
the
the
28
28
element
element to death. Here it is. 28 element version 2. Give me a second. Just I'm getting there. Okay. Here we go. So we got a close up here.
Perfect.
There's a 28 element spheric version 2 on the SL2S with the M adapter L. And what's cool is you got the focus tab. Oh, it's crooked. Sorry.
It's still crooked.
I know, I'm doing a bad job. There we go. It's, I don't know why.
Oh, you made it worse.
I'm making it worse? Okay, I'm gonna take the hood off because I can't stand looking at it. Well, actually, this is how I use the lens as well because the hood is enormous. Okay, I got the focus tab right here. Just imagine this camera's up to my eye and I'm shooting it. Definitely not, because it extends more than far enough away from the body because it has the adapter on it to allow you to easily focus it. Look at this. It actually doesn't, it almost doesn't extend past the grip.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful setup. Number one, you can come back to me, Jose. With 47 megs on the SL2 and the sharpness and high contrast of this lens and low distortion, this is a 35 and even in a pinch, a 50.
Well, you're kind of doing what the Q2 does.
Yeah, this is like a grown-up Q2.
It's an interchangeable lens Q2.
Except, of course, you can have other lenses with you, and you're getting stabilization, which is awesome. Yeah. And this lens is very, very fast to focus. It has tons of depth of field, so you don't have to worry about super, super critical focus like you do with the Lux. This is a fun lens on the SL2 or the SL2S.
It is indeed.
Especially the SL2 because of the croppability that you have with those files. Mm-hmm. Great question.
Yeah, I love that.
I love it. I love it. But I wouldn't use the hood because the hood is literally the size of the lens. I mean, it's...
Larry asks, is it a leaf shutter or electronic shutter? I assume you mean in the Q2. It's both.
Yes.
It's a leaf shutter for mechanical up to 2,000th of a second, and then it's a electronic shutter up to 1/40,000th of a second, I believe, right? Is that right? 40,000?
Yes, I can never remember which one is which, but yeah. So it has both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet.
David, a question for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keeping it simple for shooting video on the SL2S, what do you do for audio when traveling?
I don't think we have the answers to that one yet.
I'm working on it. So, yeah, I'm still struggling with that because I'm also kind of an audio snob in addition to a photo snob. So, if you see the kind of microphones we use here, these are not inexpensive microphones. This is not inexpensive audio gear. I love the so apart from noise reduction that we're doing, there is zero audio effects applied. Like nothing. There's no equalizer. There's no compression. There's none of that. The audio quality that you hear from us and how we sound normal, because I think we sound pretty good.
I think so.
We sound better on this than we do in real life.
That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So yeah, Sennheiser mics with sound devices, audio, analog preamps just sounds lusciously amazing, like a lenses on a Leica camera. We're using high quality stuff. In the field, I could use what's called a MixPre 3 from Sound Devices, which has the same preamps. It's battery operated. I can use either lithium batteries and then either wireless Sennheiser system, which I have called an AVX system, if I'm using a lavalier or using a handheld mic. And I have done this actually for show coverage where I've done photokina interviews and things like that. So I'll use a lav mic and usually record that on a separate channel and also have a handheld dynamic mic that is cardioid coverage, which means I'm just picking up that person and it's going to block out the ambient noise. And then the lavs are omnidirectional to pick up all the ambient noise and then I'll mix later. So that works pretty well. And then that's going to, you can feed that actually into either record it onto an SD card and then export's the wrong word, or send additional audio through the headphone output jack, aux jack, into the microphone full-size jack on the SL2 or SL2S, and then you'll have synced audio. So the higher quality audio will be on the SD card in the audio device, in the Sound Devices MixPre 3. You also have high quality audio in the SL in the video file, but it's higher quality, like 32-bit float, that's sort of like an audio raw file if something happens in the camera. So there you go. That's my answer. If you want to keep it really, really, really simple.
Silent films.
No, you can use the Sennheiser AVX has a little hot shoe connector, and there's a adapter that goes from XLR to 3.5 millimeter jack, and I have done that as well, where you just want to do a single lav mic right into the camera, and you have no external device, and that also is pretty high quality, but not going to be in RAW. But it doesn't matter because the AVX is digital equalization, so it makes sure that you don't clip your audio and don't run too low either. So it's like from a whisper to a scream, it'll kind of dynamically adjust it.
There you go.
That probably,
Super
I think
simple.
we probably just lost 100 viewers right there.
It's good information, whether you.
But yeah,
understand it or not.
that's kind of my other wheelhouse. It's because you can go more down the rabbit hole with video and audio gear than you can even with photo stuff.
Yeah, it gets pretty wild.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think one of the other things that we forgot to mention, and I saw someone brought up about filters, is going out in the field shooting with creative filters like polarizers, solid NDs, graduated NDs. One of the challenges you can face is having different size filters, different size filter rings, different sizes. I mean, it gets crazy. So we want to talk about keeping it simple, either bringing a set of lenses in the same filter thread size, thus keeping your filter kit simple because you just need one of each, or having a filter size only of the largest lens you have, largest filter diameter, and then step down rings for the smaller lenses.
It can be a little complicated.
It depends on the lens, of course, but I think the first approach makes the most sense.
I think so too.
For example, an SL kit with the 3 zooms.
All
There's
82
4 now,
millimeter.
but all 82. So you just need
all 4 are 82 millimeter.
182 polarizer, 182 adapter ring, and you're good. As opposed to like if you brought a 35 Apo SL and you have to have 2 and then an M lens, you gotta have another one.
The same argument can be made for keeping it simple with if you're going to use the Apo Summicron primes. They're all 67 millimeter across the board.
Oh yeah.
So
You throw a 75 Noctilux in there because that's also a 67. Maybe an 11 to 23 TL, and that's also a 67.
now you're going crazy.
Well, look, I could have a kit with 11 to 23 on an SL2.
Yes.
11 to 23.
Yes.
50 Apo.
Yes.
70 or 35 Apo.
Yes.
75 Noctilux. All 67.
Yes.
That is talk about a fun kit with variety. Like, you got a lightweight cropping lens for wide angle stuff. You've got an all around lens for super sharp stuff. And you've got a crazy cool creative lens for everything else.
Wow.
And you have to have one polarizer and one filter ring and you're good.
Yeah. The takeaway is make sure to build out the most exotic lenses you can around a filter.
I mean, there's different ways to keep things simple.
That's the Josh way.
I've seen a few questions about the Lights phone, and also we've had a lot of people ask about it. We obviously are in the US. The Lights phone, as of now, is only in Japan. We don't know anything about it.
It's funny. It takes me back to the early days of when digital cell phones were a new thing back in like the mid 90s. And I remember they got high-speed wireless networking years before in Japan, years before we did in the US market. The phones they had there They had specific like laptops that were network capable that we never saw here.
Yeah.
This is not a new thing. I'm just surprised that it's still a thing.
Well, I'm surprised that Leica sent out an email to everyone in the world and said, "Look at our cool new phone."
I know that too.
All
And
right.
you can't get it.
Yeah, it's like, why? I want all that. But we can't answer any questions about it other than to say it's called the Lights Phone 1 and it's being sold in Japan. If you're in Japan,
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing a Japan workshop in 2022.
Okay, go buy one.
We are.
Okay.
I think November 2022. We're going to be doing like Tokyo and Kyoto. Peter's working on that. So if you want to get that phone, just come with us on the workshop, and we'll make sure to go and get the phone.
All right, so this is the reason to go on our Japan workshop is to
Perfect.
go get the Lights phone.
Yeah.
I love it.
No other reason.
So
No other
obviously, if the day comes where Leica starts shipping it to us in the States, we're gonna probably do a whole show about it. But we have no idea whatsoever, not a hint, not a clue, nothing. So I'm excited for the enthusiasm you guys have, and we're excited about anything new that Leica's doing. Who knows? Time will tell.
Time will tell.
Okay, now I wanted to talk about, what did I want to talk about? I lost my train of thought. Oh, did we talk about the TL2 yet?
Not yet.
No. Okay, because, thank you. Sorry, everyone. Clearly, I need more coffee. I don't. One of the kind of underutilized products in the Leica product portfolio has to be the T cameras, TL, TL2. And from a keeping it simple standpoint, a lot of the times David and I are assuming everybody shooting all the Leicas are like super Leica expert nerds like we are. The reality is that's not the case. And that's cool with us because we deal with a huge range of people, different skill sets, different gear requirements. And one of the cameras that we like to put in people's hands that maybe they don't have that muscle memory for cameras already is the TL2. So one of the aspects about keeping it simple is it has to be a camera that you want to use, that you enjoy using, and that you're comfortable using. Seems obvious. Now, again, David and I, our muscle memory is aperture rings and shutter speed dials. But if you're not that, or if you're gifting a camera to someone who you want to have a serious camera, you want them to be in the Leica family because you're obsessed with it and nothing else will do, I feel like the TL2 is one of the most interesting ways to keep it simple. Number one, is it covered in fingerprints? Oh boy. I think I just put them on there.
You
in my
did
defense.
just now.
The interface, speaking of phones, this perfect segue.
Yes, it is.
This is the most phone-like interface of any camera that Leica makes because it's got this sort of like, maybe we can do a close-up on that, Jose? And get here we go. It's got this icon-based interface that's fully customizable. So you can actually press and hold and get rid of icons.
Or add them
I can
with the plus sign.
add icons. I'm trying to do this backwards here. So it's a totally customizable there we go, menu. And I get it. This is not a super serious SL2 or some big giant weather sealed awesomeness. But from a user-friendly familiarity standpoint, if you're not a camera nerd, the TL2 is actually pretty nice. It's the same sensor as the CL, a camera that David and I hype up all the time because that sensor is fantastic. We've made 20 by 30 inch prints, no sweat. So that's important to keep in mind is forget about all the exterior part of it. This is the same tried and true 24 megapixel sensor that you get in the CL. It's the same L mount as you get on the CL. So SL lenses, all the L mount lenses, like the CL lenses all work, of course, M adapter L, everything on here. If you have an M10 already, this is the VisaFlex for the M10 is the one for the T as well. So there's a lot of cross compatibility and it's a totally different shooting experience. So I get it. If you're shooting with an M10R and a Noctilux, you probably aren't going to go, you can come back to me, Jose. You're probably not going to go for a TL2, but I feel like this camera doesn't get
love.
the love that it deserves. And if you're, again, this is a really great gift for someone who's getting into photography. Maybe they've only ever shot with their phone or shot with something basic. You want to keep them in the Leica family. Maybe you've got a CL or an SL with L mount lenses you can support them with also without going something crazy complicated. So keep it simple with the TL2.
Yeah. I mean, I still like, and I'm gonna go back to that. I still like keeping it simple with the CL.
Yeah, someone asked if the CL has a silent mode.
Leslie asked that. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. I'll just do a close up of the menu here so you can see.
Apologies in advance. This is my camera.
If you go to, this is pretty clean. If you go to,
Shockingly.
Sorry, this light is like,
Well, it has the screen protector on it.
I know, right?
Yeah.
If you go to electronic shutter here in the CL and put it on always on, you see
It's
that?
silent. Yeah.
It's totally silent. Yeah. So yes, the CL does have a silent mode.
But we would caution that you don't want to use that on anything that's moving quickly. Otherwise, you get kind of a jelly effect. A mechanical shutter is better for moving objects, but if you're shooting buildings, architecture, slow-moving things, then it's fine. Just be aware of that. Don't use electronic shutter all the time, because if you shoot a picture of a car or a dog running or whatever, like you're like, what in the world happened there?
Yeah.
Everything's going to be a little...
Not for moving subjects. Not for fast-moving subjects. Or if you're moving the camera fast.
Yeah. So yeah, my keeping simple kit, that 35 1.4 TL on the CL and the 18, I did a trip with that to
the 18 is like a lens that if you have any L mount camera, the 18 is so small, and these are available pre-owned pretty readily.
Close up on that. He's on there already. Yeah.
Yeah, these are available pre-owned very readily for $1,000 or less, which for a Leica lens is amazing. Look at this thing. It's like comically small.
You can probably lose that lens.
You could lose it, yeah. So I'm surprised we haven't. On an SL2, this thing is hilarious. And let me just keep the close up here, Jose. I'll put it on an SL2, which I've probably done before, but this is an SL2S, same idea. This is smaller than the 20 number. This is definitely can be hidden by the grip. And of course, it's autofocus, electronic aperture control, all that. So you don't have to worry about, the tiny manual focus ring. And this is a 28-2.8. So here's a nice, on an SL2, 20 megapixel, 28 Elmer equivalent with autofocus and electronic aperture control.
There's a question there, guys. Do you recommend TL lens with an SL2S?
Not unless you're shooting.
It's going to be it depends. So
yes, okay.
Let's say you're going to be at 10 megapixel. It's going to be 10 very good megapixels. Is your goal for social media and web only? Then 10 megapixels is fine.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's going to just end up on Instagram this big, it's going to look better than 90% of the photos out there. I mean, 99% of the photos.
Right, because if you take the center slice out of a really, really good piece of steak, It's still a really, really good piece of steak. So it's just a matter of your creative objectives and your output objectives. I think...
more output on that one.
Yeah, because you're still getting the amazing low light performance of the SL2S and the stabilization and all those benefits. So I think the 60 macro TL on the SL2S...
Now, I would say...
is great, yes.
I know nobody cares about video, but video. I love using TL lenses on the SL2 and SL2S for 4K video, because there's a Super 35 crop mode that is the same exact coverage as a TL lens.
Yeah.
And this, I'm going to just tell you right off the bat, this fits on a gimbal like nobody's business, okay?
Yeah.
So I love this combination for video shooting on the SL2S on a gimbal, because this balances perfectly. You don't have to get all crazy with counterweights and all that. This is so much easier to work with than a large SL Prime in terms of weight distribution. And you're getting such good image quality on the TL lenses, and the crop 4K and the full frame 4K look almost indistinguishable up until about 16,000 ISO. So go for it.
There you go. We love to put TL lenses on the SL2 bodies. We've talked about it to death, and we're going to keep talking about it because we love it. And I use the 60 macro TL pretty much every day on the SL2 for all the product and stuff that I do in the store. I mean, I have it on my desk all the time. It's my most used setup. So things to keep in mind.
Yeah. And in fact, I'd say
yes.
Kirsten now has the CL and the 35. So if you go on the Leica Store Miami website and you see all the beautiful environmental photos, those are not stock photos. Those are primarily shot by Kirsten, and she is a master at such things. So she uses a crop sensor camera for those. Those aren't done on an SL or anything. So, but prior, she actually has used an SL601, the first generation, with the 3514 for a 3514 TL for a great many of those kind of photos before she got her CL, and those were 10 megapixel, and everybody loves them. I mean, they're stunning product photography. And when you're going on a website, again, it's what is your output?
Right.
These are professional photos. This is a real commercial application shot at 10 megapixel on purpose.
Right, because we don't need the resolution to the website. We just need it to look good. Someone asked if there's a discrete mode on the M10. I'll just quickly say there is not
Because
there's
no click whir. There's no advance.
discrete mode on the M9s and the M8s was to hold the shutter down. You'd still hear the shutter sound, and then the rewind would come only when you release the shutter.
The advance.
The advance, sorry.
Yeah.
The rewind.
The M10 doesn't have an advance.
Right, there's no advance on the M10, so no. If you want the quietest M shutter experience, M10P, M10R, M10 monochrome, it's
Much quieter than discrete mode.
It's almost silent in a real world scenario. Don't answer that last one. We're never going to end this episode if you do. We are going to do an SL2 video episode eventually. I promise. All of your video questions. I'm going to sit there on that episode and just look pretty, and David will be doing all the talking. I'll have a little prod spoken when he starts going too long. But
No, I have a shock thing on my chair.
shock collar. But it's definitely an episode that we know people want, but we want to make sure that we do it right. We want to make sure we have the gear to show you. And the thing is, we're using a lot of the gear in the studio. So it'll happen. I promise. In the meantime, you can email him. He's busy and he'll be in Iceland, so give him a couple of weeks to reply. Just kind of send it out. But he will eventually get back to you, and he loves to talk about it. Trust me. I know.
I love to talk about most things.
That is true. What else? Well, Jose, what have we missed, if anything, in the chat?
Well, there was a question earlier
Okay.
about, give me 1 second, going from air-conditioned room to straight outside. Any concerns on the moisture and any tricks?
No, just let it
yeah.
acclimate, and then it'll go away.
That in Florida, that is a very big problem because we over air condition in the summertime, and outside it's like a sauna, and it just immediately, especially with really dense optics like this, where it's a huge hunk of glass, this just fogs over like crazy. The solution is just go outside. The sun helps. If you get the sun shining right on it, it heat the element up pretty quickly. You can also put your hands on it to try to heat it through a little bit. But just don't try to shoot something 2 minutes after you step outside from air conditioning. This also happens in an over air conditioned car where the camera bag's sitting on the floor and the air is blowing right on it.
Put it in the trunk.
Yeah, just try to pre-acclimate it. Exactly. The camera's not going to be damaged by being in warm weather, but it's that transition from super, super cold and dry to super, super hot and
Right, because
humid.
not only is it cold, but it's also dehumidified.
Yeah.
Then you're going from that to the literal exact opposite. I mean,
It's
when I
horrible.
walk out of the car in the morning when I go to work,
Glasses.
I can't see. I literally have to take my glasses off to go down the stairs and go into the store because I can't see out of they just fogged up completely. But eventually, if I'm outside long enough, they just eventually.
Right. I would advise against removing the lens and exposing the sensor because you will get that same effect on the sensor glass if it's cold enough. So don't do that until the lens actually acclimates and normalizes and everything comes up to temperature. I've never had it damage anything. I've seen a sensor where it gets hazed over like that with moisture. A blower bulb helps to try to air that out, but
Not possible to over air condition in Florida. You'd be surprised.
yeah, it is. Yeah,
You
it
go to
is.
the movie theaters, it's
Oh my
like
gosh.
64 degrees. You're just like
You feel like a crazy person because you're bringing
a jacket to go to the movies.
in the summertime in Miami to go to the mall or the movies.
It's weird, yeah.
A lot of spaces like that are just frigid.
Yeah.
So
Someone asked a question, how do M cameras and M lenses do in the rain? We have talked about this a little bit.
fine.
The M bodies, the modern 240 and newer, the bodies have a nominal amount of weather sealing. The lenses are not. Tolerances are pretty tight. I think in a light rain or mist, you'll be okay, but I wouldn't go in a driving rain. I wouldn't let water pool in any parts of it. Just proceed with caution, I guess.
Now, someone did mention, I saw a comment, what about the Velux? Which I have right here.
Oh,
We have neglected the Velux.
the poor Velux,
poor-
which is
poor
the camera
Velux.
that I took to Europe the last time that I went. I'm sorry, I was like waiting for you to say something. I'm like, what?
I'm handing it to you.
So, okay. This is, again, a both creative objective and output objective specific camera. When I went to Europe the last time, I knew that most of what I would be doing would be city nighttime shooting. So I brought a QP, which this is before the Q2. So the QP was my like carry over the shoulder, and I used it a ton. But I also knew I would be doing a couple of hikes and I'd be doing a couple of situations where I would want reach. I knew I was just going to put it on social media. I wasn't going to do much printing, although I ended up printing it
Yeah, you
afterwards.
did. Yeah, you
But anyway, and I also knew I was going to be dressed pretty nice because in Switzerland, I want to look fancy. So I didn't want to bring a huge gross bag or whatever. So I brought the QP for my like low light stuff, and I brought the Velux 5 for everything else. And it was awesome because what I would do is just have one or the other. I had a small, I think I had an Oberwerth bag or an Ono bag with me, maybe like just big enough for the camera and for the two cameras. That was it.
With a single divider, right?
Yeah, with a single divider in the middle. And I never really brought both with me at the same time. I would have one usually in the trunk, but from all my, we were walking around Geneva, whatever, I had the QP. We went to the Gelmerbahn, which is like this cool dam with a vertical tram. Anyway, and I knew that we'd be doing a lot of walking, and I knew that we would be doing landscape, which I like. We both like to do with telephoto.
Yeah.
I brought the Velux 5. It actually got a little bit wet because it was kind of rainy, and it was fine, surprisingly. And it was awesome. So for me, my keeping it simple kit was bringing two cameras that I probably have never met in anyone's bag before. A Leica QP and a Velux 5, yet it was perfect for what I needed. And in the store, I have a 20 by 30 inch print from that Gelmerbahn with the Velux 5 in this like misty, foggy, whatever. It looks awesome.
Yeah.
So it was a low ISO because I wouldn't print that big.
Well, hold on. Let's also, I mean, something that was, we actually had two gallery shows or one. Was it the Birding by Bus people?
No, it was Noah Stricker.
Noah Stricker. Yeah. Okay, so Noah Stricker held the Guinness Book of World Records record for number of birds officially spotted in one calendar year. And he started on January 1st, ended on December 31st. And I think he said he only stopped at home once to just like pick up clothes or something. And he went to all 7 continents, constantly flying from one place to another place to another place and doing birding. Now he had his Leica binoculars, but he had a Velux with him. And we had an entire gallery show, printed gallery size. And I was like, these are amazing pictures of birds. And he's like, I'm not a photographer. I really apologize.
Birder, yeah.
But you know what? If you see like, how many, like 5,000 species of birds, like you're bound to get one good picture, right?
Yeah. So pretty good.
So I think he was selling himself a little short. He obviously had a good eye for photography, and or the Velux just makes it that easy. And we had gallery size prints of birds, and nobody could believe that it was taken with that camera, that it wasn't some massive long lens behemoth SLR.
Yeah, if someone had asked what camera to pair a Q2 monochrome for the trip to Europe, I would say a Velux 5. At least if you know you're not going to necessarily be making huge low light prints, or you need 1.4 aperture. Yeah. Which again, I thought about the trip. I looked at my itinerary and I knew what I needed and I knew what I didn't need. Yeah. I didn't need a 91.5 Summilux. I didn't need a 90-280 2.8-4. Sure. I was perfectly fine with the QP. And I mean, now I'd bring a Q2. Right. But that was what was current. And it was an awesome setup for me. And it was light. It allowed me to have a nice, small, classy bag. We could go to a fancy restaurant. I could have the bag with me and not feel like I was at a place. It was awesome. So I would say, yeah, Q2 monochrome Velux 5 is surprising and awesome. Plus the Velux 5 does really good 4K video. It does. It also has really nice Wi-Fi Bluetooth integration. Great image stabilization. Great image for getting the images off the camera onto your phone. It's got the articulating screen. We'll do an episode on the compacts. I feel like I've been saying this forever. We will eventually do a compact camera episode. But in the interim, if you're near a Leica store at some point, you just want something fun to play with, check it out.
And it's very light.
It is.
Lighter than it looks.
Yeah, it's very, very light. Yeah, it looks heavier than it actually is. It's extremely light.
Well, to that point, so when my own family came to me and said, David, I need a camera for X, Y, or Z. My father, at the time, like, he's the one who got me into photography. He had all the big, heavy metal cameras. You know, he had Nikon SLRs. He's the one who like said, oh, you got to get an M6. So blame him. He said, you know, I don't want to carry all that stuff anymore. I don't want to carry my big interchangeable lens kit. I just want something really simple. And, you know, we travel, we go on cruises, we do this stuff. What can I take? I don't want to lug all that. And I said, Velux. Yeah. And he loves the Velux to death. Unfortunately, he uses the flash a bit too much for people pictures for my taste, but
you gotta teach him some stuff.
But there is a pop-up flash, which makes him happy. If I could figure out how to get it. Where is it? There we go.
See how often he uses the flash.
The flash. I never use the flash. Yeah, so it has a little pop-up flash, which is great. Yeah, there it is. For people that have needs for flash, which, you know, sometimes you do. So he loves it for travel photography and has taken it all over the world, loves it to death. My sister, who was doing photography at a summer camp for like 1,000 kids and had to do sports photos and single, arm in arm, cute headshots of the little kids and, kids at singing and doing activities and crafting and all different scenarios, but said, I've got neck issues and back issues and I can't carry anything heavy and I don't want to use, and she had a DSLR, I don't want to use that anymore. What can I use? I said, get a Velux. And she shot professionally. She was actually paid to do this. She shot professional camp photos for 3 straight years with the predecessor and this camera. And because it has that massive zoom on it, she was able to take soccer pictures and basketball and even the close-up stuff and knock out that many photos in a day. And
Yeah.
it was great.
Yeah. Plus, it takes the same battery as the original Q or the CL. So there's like a nice battery ecosystem available too. So I don't want to go too much about compacts because we're going to do a whole episode about it, but we're almost pretty much at the end.
Deluxe. And then Deluxe is the same kind of deal.
Yeah.
Smaller.
We will do a compacts episode because I also want to cover the history of them. So we got to find a Deluxe 1 and stuff like that.
So did we talk about all of our...
I feel pretty good. I don't want to get too rambly, which could happen around this time if we're not careful. But we have a few minutes, so
Question.
I would say, Jose, have we missed anything?
Questions.
If not, fire off a couple last minute questions and we will answer them for you.
Yeah, I don't think we have too many questions.
We're being very efficient today.
Has
No, I don't like it.
Has the Celux been discontinued?
I don't think so.
No.
No.
I don't actually know. I don't think so.
Leica S3 with Vario Elmar 30-90.
I was a huge proponent of the 30-90 on the 007. That was my main camera for probably 2 solid years for my
the
car
180, right?
car photography and the 180
Yeah.
for landscape. So yeah, if you're not shooting wide open, you don't mind to stop down just to get that last bit of corner sharpness for landscape. Awesome.
But I will say, because I had the same conversation today, the 3090 is a bit larger and heavier.
It's a bit of a beast, but I got used to it.
It's not-
That's why the 24-90 to me is so whatever. Because I was using the 30-90.
3090 is a lot heavier than the 24-90. So I would say sometimes using the prime lenses, like a 35, is much lighter. And because it's an f2.5 max aperture versus a 3.5 to 5.6, you can shoot in lower light conditions with it. Although the S3 is really good in low light, up to 12,000 ISO. The sensor technology in the S3 is actually what's in the M10R and the M10 monochrome. So go figure.
S lenses will not work on a CL. Sorry.
S lenses will not, but they will work on an SL
Right,
too.
the S adapter L is only for the SL cameras. It won't work on the CL or TL. I wish.
But I'd say the 3090, if you're looking to keep it simple, you could go with that analogy of let's say you use a 35, and when you need something a little bit wider, you can do a pano with the 35 vertically. And when you need longer, you can easily crop the 35, maybe not to 90, but close to it. So I would say
There you go.
keep it simple with a 35 and a 70 S lens instead of a 30-90.
Although I personally like the 30-90 for what I was doing because I was in good light. I didn't want to bring a bag. I didn't have a bag. I just had the camera with the lens on it. I was not in a situation where I could change lenses very easily often. And I wasn't doing landscape. I was shooting cars and people, which didn't necessitate the sharpest corners possible. Although the 30-90 is quite good at f8, but I spent a lot of time wide open and my creative objectives were different. So again, it depends on your objectives.
Oh no, it depends. It depends.
It always depends. It does depend. I mean, that was last week, but it's still, everything depends. I'm just saying, I need context.
Teacher, everything depends.
I need context before I can make a recommendation just based on,
For
a
sure,
question. So,
for sure. Jose, let's go
I
back
would
to the
say
questions.
if you guys want to just say what would be your simple kit, maybe 1 camera, 1 lens, 1 bag, or just something very simple to finish it off.
Okay, let's do that, but you're not allowed to say anything else other than the camera, the lens, and the bag. You're not allowed to give a reason, no context, no stories about your dad.
Desert Island kit.
All right, camera, lens, bag. You want me to go first? You want to go first?
You've given no context.
Exactly. That's the point. We're keeping it simple right now. This is it.
Oh gosh.
No pressure. Zero pressure.
I'm gonna say SL2. No. SL2S 24-90.
Interesting. I'm going to say SL2 24-70.
No.
We're almost in the same.
Wow.
And you'll notice that we both picked an SL camera, which is because that camera can do everything. Now, if you said, I'm going to be stuck in the city exclusively, then I'm going to take an M10R and a 35 Lux. I said I'm the one who said no more words, and here I am just doing that. So
Yeah, but-
just break my rules.
Right. But I do the same. Damn it.
Yeah. But because so there you go. So we couldn't pick one bag, so we picked 2 bags. Oh, we didn't pick the bags.
No, I'm not picking it back.
Okay, well for me, I would use either the Harry and Sally for
grab that.
which is the Oberwerth Harry and Sally from my M kit,
That's a nice bag.
which I really like, and it comes in a million styles and colors. Or I would use an Ona Bowery, or I'm phasing out of Ona a little bit just because the availability's been tricky. So I'm going more towards either Billingham or Oberwerth. Oberwerth's been doing a nice job with this like lightweight leather stuff, like the Boulevard series. But the reality is an SL2 with a 24-90 can fit in a pretty small, or excuse me, 24-70 can fit in a pretty small bag.
Yeah, that's true.
And if I'm bringing an M10R with a 35 lux, I don't even need a bag. I would just bring an AKM 414 and I'm good.
Yeah, I feel that.
No.
But I already said my very, very, very keeping it simple for family and / adventure travel. I use exactly that. I use the CL, the 35-1.4, and the 18 because where did you put? Oh,
TL, yeah.
the 18 doesn't count as a lens.
It's a body cap.
It's a body
It's a
cap.
$1,000 body cap.
Right.
There you
So
go.
really, I don't count this as another lens. I'm using the CL and the 35 and this glass body cap.
Yeah, there you go.
But that camera is in surprisingly good condition. I rock climbed with that camera just weeks ago. So
There you go. All right, so we are not going to be on air for a couple of weeks.
Bye.
David's going to be in Iceland, so he'll be doing his thing. But I'll be around. We'll be chilling. Maybe I'll just come to the studio and just fire up the. I'll just do like 3 hours. I'll just have a couple of beers, and Jose will produce, and just ask me questions. Would you pay for that? How much could I know? Like fireside chats.
Right,
with Josh.
no, I feel like you would auction off everything. I'd come back. The studio would be
Be
like
nothing left. Highest bidder.
it would be like that scene at the end of Risky Business where like I had to buy all my stuff back.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. You know, you're going away. I'm just gonna have some fun. All right. Well, this was a lot of fun.
This was fun.
I am enjoying these like more conceptual, deep thought types of episodes. Hopefully, you guys are as well.
Leave a comment what you like.
Yeah, we've
don't
done a
like.
lot of techie stuff, and we're gonna do a lot more techie stuff. So this is a nice little deviation from that, I think.
It's a break. It's a little breather, you know?
Yeah.
It's a
All
breather.
right. Want to sign us off?
Sure. Did we actually finish on time?
We did.
Oh
We
my
started
gosh.
on time and we finished on time.
Oh my
We
god.
haven't finished yet because you haven't done your 6-minute sign off. But
Right, so let me get started. Okay. All right. So as you well know, this is Red Dot Forum Camera Talk. Oh, there's Jose.
Hey,
Hi, Jose.
It's a Jose. Don't get distracted.
Okay. So thanks for watching. We do these kind of shows. If you haven't seen us before, make sure, and you liked it, one, give us a thumbs up because we appreciate it. Leave us a comment. Let us know what your thoughts are. If you have any lingering questions that we were unable to get to, especially if you didn't watch the episode live, no problem. Most people actually don't watch it live, and we're happy to address questions you might have after the fact. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and click the notifications so you know when we post new content. And we usually will post a live video days in advance of us going live so you can schedule around it and make sure you can watch it. Also, check out red.forum.com, the website, for the latest Leica news, reviews, tech articles, inspirational things. We talk about a lot of the content that we do on there, on here. And I have links to all of this in the video description. The playlist where you can see previous episodes, red.forum. And if you want to support us and keep the channel going, we do appreciate if you want to get Leica gear, consider getting it from Leica Store Miami because that directly supports the channel and not required, but appreciated.
We're trying to buy a yacht from the ad revenue from these videos, but so far all it's paid for is like a single taco, I think. So
Yeah, the ad revenue is pretty much like our taco dinners before these things.
So that's, you know, we do love what we do, and we
Yes.
appreciate all the
Yes,
support,
yes.
even just the love we get from people that we know, and, you know, learn from the shows all over the world, which is wild for us. To think
sure.
about. Yeah.
For those people, I see Lynn says see you in Iceland. So for those people who are coming on the workshop, I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys next week.
Yeah.
We're going to have a ton of fun.
It'd be awesome.
If you want to check out other workshops, there's a link to the workshop programs below where you can join me on far-flung travels and have Leica adventures around the world. So would love to have you there, and you can geek out in person. Anyway, that's it. As always, huge thanks to Josh.
My pleasure. It was fun.
Big thanks to Jose.
Yep.
Kirsten is not with us tonight, but we're getting by without her. But thanks to
Somehow,
her
scraping
because
by.
you know what? She's there in spirit and has inspired us on many levels. A lot of this episode was put together with basically her strategies, more than ours even.
Yes.
And as always, a huge thanks to you guys for watching and tuning in and giving us an excuse to talk for 2 hours about Leica every other Saturday.
See you in a few weeks.
And we'll see you later.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.